the great swordsman of Marvel. Greetings, fellow multiversal adventurers. It's an honor to have you back in this saga that has us all hooked. Official channel statement: this story is 100% epic fiction, so please don't attempt real magic. The results aren't guaranteed and insurance won't cover it. The rights to this masterpiece belong entirely to its brilliant original author. We are just a barge sharing it with you. Do you want to keep being part of this amazing community? Join our ninja army of subscribers on YouTube and give this content a like. And for true fans, our Patreon has exclusive ninjutsu waiting for you. Chapter 501: Hidden Weapons. The purple ninja had been using his agility to confuse Yi-Shen, and combined with the pitch-black darkness, he remained hidden, making subtle noises here and there. The purple ninja refused to reveal himself, but Yi-Shen eventually discovered him. Although Yi-Shen couldn't see the purple ninja, he could sense his location by remaining still. To avoid being discovered further, the purple ninja decided to use his ultimate technique, invisibility. The purple ninja's invisibility was incredibly powerful, yet utterly ridiculous. Why ridiculous? Because his invisibility was always accompanied by exaggerated, wide-ranging movements. After the purple ninja used his invisibility, it became even more difficult for Yi-Shen to see him. Yi-Shen was starting to doubt if there were ghosts on the 4th floor. The purple ninja was extremely pleased with himself, because Yi-Shen couldn't see him, and he could attack him at will, using hidden weapons to strike. The purple ninja launched a hidden weapon at Yi-Shen. This time, Yi-Shen didn't sense the direction from which the weapon came and was successfully hit, thus sustaining an injury. The purple ninja struck Yi-Shen, who then fainted in front of him. This result greatly pleased the purple ninja, who thought Yi-Shen was finished and so easily defeated. However, to his surprise, Yi-Shen had merely collapsed. Yi-Shen knew someone was secretly plotting against him, but he couldn't see them. He wanted to force this person to reveal themselves, so he cleverly feigned death to trick them into appearing. The purple ninja fell for it. He stopped using his invisibility technique and revealed his true form, crouching down in front of Yi-Shen to check on him. Yi-Shen sensed the purple ninja's presence and decided to attack him as he drew closer. The purple ninja was suddenly startled because Yi-Shen abruptly stood up and launched a fierce attack. Unable to dodge in time, the purple ninja was relentlessly pursued by Yi-Shen, frantically trying to escape. This situation completely surprised the purple ninja. He had assumed Yi-Shen was dead, but it turned out to be all an illusion. Realizing he had been tricked, the purple ninja was filled with frustration. He couldn't understand why Yi-Shen wasn't dead. His hidden weapon had clearly struck Yi-Shen, and its power was enough to pierce even the hardest stone, let alone Yi-Shen's mortal body. The purple ninja couldn't comprehend it. Yi-Shen, now standing again, was furious and determined to defeat the purple ninja, teaching him a lesson and showing him his strength. Seeing Yi-Shen's rage, the purple ninja was terrified and could only flee while dodging Yi-Shen's attacks. Finally, cornered by Yi-Shen, the purple ninja desperately sought refuge in a small room. The small room was pitch black. After hiding inside, the purple ninja used his invisibility technique, thinking that Yi-Shen wouldn't be able to see him and attack. However, the purple ninja miscalculated. He didn't know that even if Yi-Shen couldn't see with his naked eye, he could sense the location of surrounding objects, let alone a person so close. This was no problem for Yi-Shen at all. Yi-Shen smiled and said, "You'd better hide well, or you're dead if I find you." Yi-Shen deliberately scared the purple ninja, who was hiding in a corner of the room, trembling with fear and afraid to make a sound. After saying that, Yi-Shen pushed open the door and entered the small room. Although it was pitch black, Yi-Shen could use his senses to know what was in the room, and of course, he also knew where the purple ninja was hiding. Yi-Shen slowly approached, and when he was a few steps away from the purple ninja, he held the hidden weapon that the purple ninja had just used in his hand. Yi-Shen stopped a few steps away from the purple ninja. He did this to instill panic in the ninja, even though it appeared that Yi-Shen was in the open while the ninja was in the shadows. The true situation wasn't what the purple ninja thought. Taking advantage of the ninja's heightened tension, Yi-Shen launched an attack, striking at him with hidden weapons. In his panic, the purple ninja grabbed a piece of floorboards and used it to block the attack, successfully dodging Yi-Shen's attack. However, any movement from the purple ninja would reveal his location. Yi-Shen ran towards the direction of the sound, forcing the purple ninja to reveal himself. Unable to use invisibility anymore, the purple ninja knew he wouldn't stand a chance against Yi-Shen in a direct confrontation, so he had no choice but to evade. Yi-Shen still had many hidden weapons, all picked up from when the purple ninja had attacked him earlier, providing him with free weapons. Yi-Shen relentlessly attacked the purple ninja with hidden weapons, using his own methods against him to teach the purple ninja a lesson in the power of hidden weapons. Initially, the purple ninja was able to nimbly dodge Yi-Shen's attacks, but as time went on, he became exhausted and his movement slowed noticeably. Just when Yi-Shen had only one hidden weapon left, his eyes hardened, and he launched a powerful attack at the purple ninja. The purple ninja thought Yi-Shen was out of weapons, but unexpectedly, Yi-Shen fired another one. Caught off guard, the purple ninja was struck. This time, the hit was no small matter. The purple ninja felt excruciating pain. A deep gash appeared where the weapon had struck, blood gushing out, the weapon embedded in his flesh. Seeing the purple ninja suffering, Yi-Shen smiled and asked, "How does this hidden weapon feel?" The purple ninja gritted his teeth and replied, "Don't underestimate me. I have a backup plan. Don't think you can defeat me so easily." Wishful thinking, Yi-Shen said dismissively. "Is that so? Then what other tricks do you have up your sleeve? Show them to me." The purple ninja was provoked by Yi-Shen, and his anger grew even stronger. He hated Yi-Shen's condescending attitude. The purple ninja now realized he couldn't defeat Yi-Shen. He regretted accepting the order to stop Yi-Shen. If he hadn't come, he wouldn't have suffered such serious injuries, and he wouldn't have had to endure so much suffering later. Chapter 502. A small space. The purple ninja, already severely injured, feared further action from Yi-Shen, making escape unlikely. To save his life, he summoned a secret weapon, an android, number 8. The purple ninja commanded, "Defeat him. Don't underestimate him. Beat him to pulp. If you defeat him, I'll grant you your freedom and let you leave." Android 8 replied, "I mean what I say." Without hesitation, the android launched an attack on Yi-Shen. From their conversation, Yi-Shen understood the situation. Android 8 was imprisoned here after offending the Red Ribbon Legion. Deep down, Android 8 didn't want to obey the purple ninja's orders. He deeply disliked the Red Ribbon Army, but for his freedom and to leave, he had to go against his conscience and attack Yi-Shen. Just as Android 8 attacked Yi-Shen, he instantly broke the stone chains binding his hands, surprising the purple ninja. He was surprised that Android 8 could break chains so easily. Thankfully, he was imprisoned, otherwise, he would have been in serious trouble. However, it was still impossible for Android 8 to escape the Red Ribbon Army's headquarters. There were many powerful individuals there, and despite his own strength, he knew he couldn't fight against so many. Android 8 attacked Yi-Shen, who dodged. During their fight, Yi-Shen noticed a clear light in Android 8's eyes and realized that Android 8 wasn't a bad person. Yi-Shen couldn't bring himself to fight him seriously. Faced with the android's attacks, Yi-Shen only dodged, but the android wasn't using its full strength either, making their fight seem like a game. The purple ninja standing nearby couldn't stand it any longer. He roared angrily at Android 8, "What are you doing? I told you to kill him. Kill him now. If you kill him, I'll let you go immediately." The purple ninja, like a madman, loudly ordered the android around. Everyone here was stronger than him. What right did he have to so confidently command Android 8 to act for his own selfish desires? The more rude the purple ninja was to Android 8, the more resistant Android 8 became. He didn't want to help the purple ninja in the first place, if it weren't for his own freedom. When the purple ninja ordered Android 8 to kill Yi-Shen, Android 8 refused to obey. The android suddenly remembered something. Given the Red Ribbon Army's character, things couldn't possibly be as they claimed. The Red Ribbon Army had committed countless evil deeds and heinous acts. Even if Android 8 obeyed the purple ninja's orders and killed Yi-Shen, the android believed the purple ninja would never keep his promise. The purple ninja was merely looking for someone to defeat Yi-Shen and resolve his crisis. Once the crisis was over, he would surely betray him. Therefore, Android 8 was simply a tool used by the purple ninja. Android 8 analyzed the situation in his mind and reached this conclusion. Therefore, Android 8 would never obey the purple ninja's orders under any circumstances. Android 8 had no desire to carry out the purple ninja's orders. He knew the Red Ribbon Army members were wicked and dishonest, so he couldn't believe the purple ninja's words. The Red Ribbon Army had done so many bad things, therefore, Android 8 was even less likely to work for them. Since Yi-Shen is someone the purple ninja wants to eliminate, then Yi-Shen is on the same side as him. They should be working together, not harming each other. The purple ninja used freedom as a bargaining chip to tempt Android 8 to serve him. But Android 8 refused to help the evil Red Ribbon Army. Android 8 didn't fall for the trap. He chose not to accept the purple ninja's orders. Even if you lock me up here forever, even if you really released me, I will not betray my principles to do bad things for you, Android 8 said. The purple ninja clapped his hands and said, not bad, quite the backbone. Let's see if you have any more backbone. With that, the purple ninja's face turned sinister, his eyes filled with murderous intent. He took out something that looked like a remote control. Android 8 saw the object and frowned. Yi-Shen knew that this remote control-like object was definitely not simple. The purple ninja said smugly, you see this thing? I think you know exactly what it is, and you also know what it means to you if I hold it. You know better than anyone what will happen to you if I press this button. I'm just asking you, are you scared? Yi-Shen knew from just these few words how much of a threat this remote control was to Android 8. Since things had come to this point, Android 8 was no longer afraid of death. Perhaps death was another kind of liberation, a chance to escape this confined space and gain freedom. Android 8 had already figured it out. He wasn't afraid of death, so he fearlessly said to the purple ninja, I'm not afraid of death. If you press it, I'd be more than happy. The purple ninja didn't believe Android 8 had such backbone, and he said insidiously, oh, you're about to die, and you're still so stubborn. Is it really necessary for you to sacrifice your life for someone unrelated? It's not worth it at all. You might as well listen to me, kill him, and I'll give you your freedom, Android 8 said disdainfully. I don't care about your so-called freedom. If you have the guts, press it right now. The purple ninja tried every trick in the book, coercion and bribery, but nothing worked. Android 8 remained steadfast in its decision. Seeing that Android 8 wouldn't obey his orders, the purple ninja grew furious and agitated. His movements aggravated his previous wound, causing him to gasp in pain. Yi-Shen approached Android 8 and asked, what's that in his hand? He seems to think he can control you, Android 8 replied to Yi-Shen. Chapter 503 Bomb Device. The device he held in his hand was called the android's self-detonation bomb device. Just press the self-detonation button, and I'll be gone. The Red Ribbon Legion was indeed inhuman and morally bankrupt. They could come up with and use any vicious method. Yi-Shen despised such people. He felt sorry for Android 8 and thought it kind-hearted, so Yi-Shen decided to help Android 8 escape and gain his precious freedom. The purple ninja was furious. He had tried everything, good and bad, but Android 8 wouldn't obey him. The purple ninja really wanted to press the self-detonation button, making Android 8 disappear from this world forever. The purple ninja truly had murderous intent, picked up the self-detonation bomb device, and placed his finger on the detonation button, ready to press it. Android 8 quietly closed his eyes, awaiting his impending death. Yi-Shen absolutely wouldn't allow such a thing to happen before his eyes. He moved in front of the purple ninja with lightning speed, snatching the self-detonating bomb device from its hand in the blink of an eye. The purple ninja didn't even see what happened before the self-detonating bomb device vanished from its hand. Looking up quickly, it realized that Yi-Shen had stolen it. Yi-Shen's first reaction after getting the self-detonating bomb device was to destroy it, thus eliminating the threat to Android 8's life. With lightning speed, Yi-Shen slammed the self-detonating bomb device to the ground with tremendous force, instantly smashing it to pieces. The purple ninja cried out in anguish. No, Android 8 had already closed its eyes for several seconds but felt no reaction until it heard a loud bang and the purple ninja scream. Android 8 opened his eyes and saw a pile of scattered parts next to Yi-Shen. He realized that Yi-Shen had stolen the self-detonating bomb device and destroyed it. Android 8 breathed a sigh of relief. Now he didn't have to worry about this problem anymore. Android 8 was very grateful to Yi-Shen for his help and sincerely said to him, "Thank you very much," Yi-Shen replied with a smile, "You're welcome. We're helping each other." Seeing that Android 8 had sided with Yi-Shen, the purple ninja knew he was no match for the two of them. To save his own life, the purple ninja quickly fled. However, the purple ninja was not willing to let Yi-Shen and Android 8 go so easily. He went back and told General White what had happened. After the purple ninja escaped, Yi-Shen rescued Android 8, and the two decided to escape together. Before that, Yi-Shen took Android 8 to find out where the village chief was being held. Yi-Shen told Android 8, "Let's team up, so we can look out for each other. You go find someone for me first, then we'll leave this place together," Android 8 replied succinctly. Okay, they were currently on the 4th floor of Masruta. Yi-Shen and Android 8 searched around but couldn't find the village chief on that floor, so Yi-Shen led Android 8 towards the 5th floor. The purple ninja returned and reported the news to General White. General White was very dissatisfied with Yi-Shen and Android 8 and decided to teach them a lesson. General White came up with a plan. He knew that Yi-Shen and his team's next step was to go to the 5th floor of Masruta, so General White decided to set a trap on the 5th floor. General White went to the 5th floor and set the trap, while Yi-Shen and Android 8, still on their way, were unaware of what awaited them. Yi-Shen led Android 8 to the 5th floor. They encountered no obstacles on their way up. Once there, they began searching room by room until they reached the end of the 5th floor. One room stood out. It was heavily guarded. Yi-Shen guessed that someone important must be imprisoned inside. To avoid being discovered, he pulled Android 8 behind a pillar. From behind the pillar, they overheard the guards' conversation. One soldier said, "I don't understand why the officer assigned us here. What's so special about guarding this guy? He's just an old man. Could they have just assigned 2 people? I don't believe an old man can escape. It's completely unnecessary and a waste of our time." The soldier seemed very dissatisfied with his officer's arrangement. He complained bitterly. Another voice rang out, comforting the complaining soldier, saying, "Try to think positively. There must be a reason for this arrangement. It's probably to prevent someone from rescuing the old man. Besides, this job isn't tiring, just think of it as a rest." Hearing this, Yi-Shen couldn't contain his excitement. He was certain the village chief was imprisoned in this room. After searching for so long, 5 floors in total, he had finally found the village chief. Yi-Shen was overjoyed and didn't want to wait any longer, not wanting to waste any more time. He just needed to defeat these people to rescue the village chief and return. Yi-Shen appeared, followed closely by Homunculus 8. The guards spotted them. Yi-Shen and Homunculus 8 were clearly outsiders and prisoners. From their appearance, the soldiers could tell these 2 were the people General White had specifically set a trap for. Since Yi-Shen and his companion had appeared, it meant they had been tricked. To complete the charade, the soldiers pretended surprise and tried to arrest Yi-Shen and Homunculus 8, only to be defeated by the 2 of them. Yi-Shen and Android 8 easily defeated these people. They felt something was amiss, but couldn't quite put their finger on it. Yi-Shen walked ahead of Android 8 to the door, pushed it open, and led Android 8 into the room. Upon entering, they didn't see the village chief, so they searched the room but couldn't find him. While walking, they weren't paying attention and stepped into a trap set by General White, falling in. After falling in, they discovered there were several rooms below. Searching further, they came to a mysterious room where they finally encountered a monster completely unrelated to the village chief. This monster was entirely red. This monster was a huge, fat dragon called the Great Fat Dragon. When Yi-Shen and Android 8 found the Great Fat Dragon, it was constantly eating, and they saw that it was eating live flesh. Chapter 504 Amnesia. Blood was everywhere, the bloodstains were mottled, and bones lay scattered about, some still faintly bloodshot. Yi-Shen could tell they were human bones. The scene was incredibly horrifying and disgusting. Yi-Shen couldn't help but swallow hard. The sight was repulsive, and his hair stood on end. Android 8 knew what this meant. The monster ate androids. Because of his extreme fear, Android 8 accidentally kicked a pile of bones, making a sound that the red monster heard. Startled, the monster turned around and saw Yi-Shen and Android 8 trespassing on its territory. Seeing the fresh meat, the monster assumed it was just new food from the Red Ribbon Legion. Its mouth watered, and its eyes were fixed on Yi-Shen and Android 8. Suddenly, the monster no longer found the bones appealing. Why gnaw on yesterday's bones when there was new food? The monster's greedy eyes told Yi-Shen and Android 8 that something terrible had happened. This cannibalistic monster was after their flesh. The relic dropped the human bone it was holding and walked towards Yi-Shen and Android 8. The large, red, fat dragon attacked them, and they dodged separately. The monster's primary target was Yi-Shen, since he wasn't an android, and real human flesh would be more delicious. The large, red, fat dragon had never eaten real human flesh before, and since it had come to them, it wouldn't let this delicious meal pass by. The large, red, fat dragon greedily eyed Yi-Shen, relentlessly chasing him. The monster's stamina was astonishing. Yi-Shen's stamina was already quite good, but the monster's relentless attacks caused him to waste a lot of energy. Android 8 tried to distract Yi-Shen, but the monster didn't want to eat him and ignored him, leaving Android 8 helpless. Although the large, fat dragon only attacked Yi-Shen, it didn't want to kill him immediately, as it wanted fresh meat and wanted to consume him while he was still alive. Although the monster relentlessly pursued Yi-Shen, Yi-Shen's escape speed was incredibly fast, and the red monster couldn't catch him, which greatly frustrated it. Finally, the monster became enraged. The giant fat dragon, disregarding everything else, decided to use its ultimate move. The giant fat dragon possessed a very powerful attack. It had 2 dragon horns on its head, which could release electricity, allowing it to attack in any direction it wanted. Yi-Shen ran ahead, unaware that the giant fat dragon had stopped behind him. The giant fat dragon was preparing its attack. A ball of electricity rapidly gathered above its head. The giant fat dragon quickly launched the ball of electricity at Yi-Shen. Just then, Yi-Shen turned his head slightly, and the ball of electricity struck him squarely in the chest. Yi-Shen was electrocuted. The current flowed through his entire body. Unable to withstand such a powerful shock, Yi-Shen shuddered and collapsed, unconscious. Seeing Yi-Shen finally fall, the giant fat dragon was extremely pleased. Now its prey lay there obediently, saving it the effort of catching it. Android 8 wanted to stop the red monster's actions. He knew the giant dragon was about to devour Yi-Shen, and in this confined space, only he could save him. Although Android 8 was terrified of the giant dragon, Yi-Shen had saved his life before, and out of gratitude, Android 8 was determined to save Yi-Shen, even if it meant sacrificing his own life. The giant dragon was dragging its massive body closer to Yi-Shen. If the monster got too close, things would be bad. Android 8 seized an opportunity. While the giant dragon's attention was focused on Yi-Shen, it stopped noticing Android 8. At that moment, Android 8 unleashed its full power, rushing forward at lightning speed to grab Yi-Shen before it could get close and run away. Android 8 carried Yi-Shen to corner farthest from the giant dragon. At this moment, Yi-Shen was still unconscious. Android 8 was extremely anxious. This couldn't go on. Yi-Shen had to wake up immediately, otherwise, relying solely on his strength, it would be difficult to protect him. The 2 androids patted Yi-Shen's face. At first, they used a small amount of force, and Yi-Shen didn't react. Gradually, Android 8 increased the force, but Yi-Shen still didn't respond. Android 8 panicked, and the force in his hand slipped out of control, slapping Yi-Shen's face with a loud crack, even leaving a clear handprint. This was a desperate act, and thankfully, Yi-Shen woke up. When Yi-Shen woke up, he found his whole body aching. He couldn't remember what had happened before he fainted. The strong electric current had stimulated his brain, causing temporary amnesia. Yi-Shen couldn't remember what had just happened and felt very uncomfortable. Yi-Shen asked weakly, "What happened to me? How did I get here? Where's the red monster?" Android 8 replied to Yi-Shen. "You were just hit by the monster's electric ball, you were electrocuted, and then you passed out. I moved you to this place. The monster is about to find us, we have to get out of here quickly." Yi-Shen struggled to his feet. Android 8 helped him up, but Yi-Shen still felt some pain. He was furious and wanted to get rid of this cannibalistic monster. No one had ever made the mighty Yi-Shen so disheveled. Yi-Shen released Android 8's hand and stood steadily on his own. He used his internal energy and luck to heal himself. Next, Yi-Shen would seriously deal with the red monster and make it disappear from this world. After using his internal energy, Yi-Shen felt much better. He stretched his limbs and turned to Android 8, saying, "I'll be dealing with this red monster alone later. Stay away, I'm afraid you might get hurt in the chaos." Yi-Shen was now filled with fighting spirit. He instructed Android 8 to protect himself. However, Android 8 was a little worried about Yi-Shen's safety and asked, "Don't you need my help? You're fully recovered now. Can you handle this giant fat dragon by yourself?" Yi-Shen patted Android 8's shoulder and said casually, "Don't worry. You'd better watch this good show. After today, this ugly monster will no longer exist." Just as Yi-Shen finished speaking, the giant red monster arrived and discovered Yi-Shen and Android 8 in this corner. Seeing Yi-Shen and Android 8, the giant red fat dragon went berserk and charged towards them. Chapter 505: A Decisive Battle. Especially when the monster saw Yi-Shen awaken and return to normal, it became even more agitated. The massive monster roared to the sky, letting out a piercing howl. Yi-Shen immediately nudged Android 8, urging it to leave the cramped corner and find a safe place to hide. Android 8 followed Yi-Shen's instructions and left. The monster seemed unmoved by Android 8's departure. Its only target was Yi-Shen, and it didn't care about anyone else. Thus, Android 8 easily left the dangerous place and settled down in a safe spot. A fierce battle was about to unfold between Yi-Shen and the red monster, and the tension was palpable in their eyes. Just looking at their gazes, one could sense the impending drama. Yi-Shen couldn't hold back any longer. He struck first, unwilling to remain on the defensive. Yi-Shen was extremely ruthless this time, using almost all of his ultimate moves and special techniques, and exerting all his strength in each. This rapid barrage of attacks overwhelmed the red monster, which suffered several blows in succession. Seeing the monster injured, Yi-Shen was overjoyed. His movements didn't slow down at all. Instead, he increased his speed and power. The monster couldn't withstand Yi-Shen's fierce and dense attacks, sustaining injuries with each strike. Finally, its body gave way, and it collapsed to the ground. When the monster fell, its body was covered in wounds, large and small, a gruesome sight. This was the first time Yi-Shen had dealt with a creature so fiercely. This monster deserved to die. It had devoured countless artificial beings, and killing it wouldn't be enough to quell its hatred, much less end its evil deeds. Artificial being number 8, watching from the sidelines, was stunned. Yi-Shen's strength was far greater than he had imagined. He had thought Yi-Shen was already very strong, but he hadn't expected him to be this powerful. Artificial being number 8 returned to Yi-Shen's sight and sincerely gave him a thumbs up. Yi-Shen had dealt with a monster, and they could leave this horrible place. Yi-Shen led Android 8 back the way they came, passing the room where they had fallen, and escaped from there. Yi-Shen's first thought after escaping the trap was to find the culprit. After getting out, Yi-Shen captured the Red Ribbon Legion soldiers who had acted in the scheme. Under severe torture, they revealed the truth. It was all General White's doing. The trap was White's idea, the people were White's people, and even the purple ninjas were White's men. Connecting the dots of the day, Yi-Shen immediately understood that it was all General White's doing. Extremely angry, Yi-Shen decided to take Android 8 to confront General White. After interrogating the soldiers, Yi-Shen learned where General White's office was. Yi-Shen and Android 8 arrived outside General White's office, defeated the guards, and kicked open the door. Without hesitation, Yi-Shen kicked open the door to General White's headquarters office. Yi-Shen was furious, wanting nothing more than to settle scores with General White, the one who had orchestrated everything behind the scenes, causing him to suffer so much in a single day. General White was startled by the sudden sound of the door opening. He had been reviewing military documents, but when he looked up, he saw Yi-Shen and an android. General White was extremely surprised that Yi-Shen and the android were in his office. He hadn't received any prior notice. Initially, General White intended to blame his subordinates, but then he shouted, "Where are they? Where did they go? Is this how you guard my door? Believe me, I'll replace you all right now." General White was furious, extremely dissatisfied with his men's negligence, but when he looked towards the door, he found all his men lying on the floor. General White was exasperated. It turned out Yi-Shen and his group had handled things so meticulously. General White was particularly displeased with Yi-Shen and the android's sudden intrusion. He angrily said, "How dare you be so insolent? Don't forget, this is my territory. If you dare to act wildly on my turf, you'd better consider your own strength." General White's tone was extremely arrogant. Yi-Shen, unperturbed, said calmly, "As for my strength, you'll only know after you come and compare yourself. Let me show you whether I have the power to run rampant on your land." Yi-Shen's tone, though calm, was undeniably arrogant. This nonchalant attitude infuriated General White, who was eager to test his skills against Yi-Shen. Yi-Shen couldn't hold back any longer. This time, he wanted to fight General White one-on-one, so he said to the android, "I'll fight him alone. You stand aside and don't worry about us or what happens." The android is a little anxious. After all, Yi-Shen still has the replica, and he just had a fierce battle with the red monster, Android 8 said worriedly. Yi-Shen replied confidently, "Don't worry, I'm fine." After giving instructions to Android 8, Yi-Shen shifted all his attention to the battle with General White. General White was extremely impatient. He wanted to see Yi-Shen defeated immediately. So, General White very cunningly attacked while Yi-Shen was still talking to the android, which had a sneaky feel to it. As a general, White's actions were far from honorable. Fortunately, Yi-Shen turned around in time and saw General White lunging at him. Yi-Shen quickly dodged, and General White missed, becoming even angrier and continuing his attack. Perhaps because General White had been in a high position for too long, accustomed to flattering words, he genuinely believed himself to be very strong. In reality, since becoming a general so many years ago, His strength had not increased but had actually decreased considerably. General White's true strength was no match for Yi-Shen, a fact Yi-Shen knew all too well. However, he wanted to thoroughly humiliate General White. After several rounds, General White hadn't landed a single hit on Yi-Shen, not even able to get within half a meter of him. General White was deeply discouraged and, unwilling to accept defeat, decided to fight Yi-Shen to the death. General White attacked Yi-Shen with even greater force, his moves and power more potent than before. However, due to General White's slow speed, Yi-Shen was able to easily dodge his attacks. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 506 Imprisonment. Yi-Shen gradually lost interest and decided to stop wasting time dealing with General White. His primary objective was to find the village chief and hand him over to the villagers, as the village chief was still missing. Yi-Shen changed his attitude, becoming serious and launching an attack to kill General White. Yi-Shen's swift and unexpected moves overwhelmed General White, who was defeated in just 3 rounds, cornered and unable to move. Yi-Shen raised a knife high. One strike would be enough to kill General White in his own office. General White was terrified of death, he possessed so much and was unwilling to lose it, thus cherishing his life immensely. Yi-Shen swung the knife at General White, who, in fear, closed his eyes and blurted out the village chief's secret, "Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I know where the person you're looking for is." General White knew exactly why Yi-Shen had come. He had grasped Yi-Shen's weakness and wanted to use him as leverage to save his own life. Upon hearing this, Yi-Shen stopped, the knife halting less than a centimeter from General White's neck. General White was terrified, beads of sweat forming on his forehead and his trousers soaked with urine. Yi-Shen took a step back in disgust and asked General White, quickly, "Where's he?" Even as he spoke, Yi-Shen didn't lower the knife, keeping it pressed against General White's neck. General White was terrified of Yi-Shen and cautiously said, "Why don't you let me go first, and I'll bring him to you?" Yi-Shen, angered, increased his grip, and the knife accidentally cut a gash on General White's neck, drawing blood. General White didn't dare breathe, immediately changing his story. He was terrified of death. I was wrong, I'll take you to that old man." General White was actually feigning surrender. His true purpose wasn't just to get Yi-Shen to release him, but to make Yi-Shen disappear so he could wash away the humiliation he had just suffered. Yi-Shen remembered the lesson from his last encounter with Lapif and dared not easily trust his opponent again. Yi-Shen escorted General White to the village chief. General White led Yi-Shen to the bathroom inside the office. It turned out the village chief had been imprisoned there all along. The village chief was not only handcuffed and gagged, but also suspended in midair. No wonder there had been no sound earlier. Yi-Shen was furious that the Red Ribbon Legion treated an old man like this. The village chief had been imprisoned like this for a day and hadn't eaten, making him very weak. He was excited to see Yi-Shen there. Yi-Shen's attention was completely focused on the village chief. Just as Yi-Shen was about to remove the ropes binding the village chief, General White cunningly escaped. General White finally broke free from Yi-Shen's grasp. He fled at top speed, frantically running to his desk, pulling out a pistol from a drawer. He raised the pistol, aiming it at Yi-Shen, believing it was his last hope. Even if Yi-Shen was incredibly skilled, he couldn't possibly outrun a bullet. However, General White hadn't anticipated that Yi-Shen's ability to teleport was truly divine. Before he could even see clearly, Yi-Shen was already beside him. Yi-Shen swiftly knocked the pistol from General White's hand. General White knelt and begged for mercy. Yi-Shen kicked the pistol into a corner of the office. Yi-Shen walked to the village chief, untied the ropes binding his hands and feet, and tore off the duct tape from his mouth. The village chief was now very weak, and Yi-Shen could only support him as he walked. General White, still unwilling to give up, quietly crawled to the corner and retrieved his pistol, raising it once more. This time, General White didn't point his gun at Yi-Shen, but at the village chief beside him. General White knew the pistol posed no threat to Yi-Shen, but it was a different story for the village chief, an ordinary old man. General White wanted to use the village chief's life to blackmail Yi-Shen. Considering the village chief's safety, Yi-Shen put the village chief on the ground. Now emboldened, General White bossed Yi-Shen around. "Put your hands up, don't let them touch the side. Move to the left, Yi-Shen had no choice but to obey. General White's gun was still pointed at the village chief, and Yi-Shen dared not resist. Just as Yi-Shen raised his hands, General White, in a despicable act, fired. This time, General White's target was Yi-Shen. Because Yi-Shen wasn't paying attention, he was hit by General White's pistol. Yi-Shen was shot, the pistol hit his thigh. Although it wasn't a vital spot, Yi-Shen couldn't walk normally and immediately collapsed. General White was still dissatisfied that Yi-Shen had only taken one shot. His gun remained pointed at Yi-Shen, intending to end his life. This action enraged the kind-hearted Android 8, who rushed in to stop him. Android 8, having been left outside by Yi-Shen, was unaware of what was happening inside until the gunshot rang out. When Android 8 entered, Yi-Shen was already lying on the ground, and General White, gun in hand, approached Yi-Shen, intending to finish him off. Android 8 was furious. General White was utterly despicable. Android 8, Jin Li Zhao, intervened, stopping General White's actions. Unwilling to give up, General White decided to eliminate Android 8 first, firing several shots, but none of them harmed him. Ordinary firearms posed no threat to the androids because, outwardly, they appeared no different from ordinary humans. However, besides their outer skin and flesh, they possessed a protective metal layer within their bodies. General White fired several shots at Android 8 with his pistol, but the android remained unharmed. The bullet struck Android 8 with a metallic clanging sound. Seeing that his pistol was ineffective against Android 8, General White panicked. His only weapon for survival was his pistol, and now that it was useless, he was terrified and wanted to escape immediately. General White dropped his pistol and fled in panic, only to be caught by Android 8 just as he reached the doorway. Android 8 grabbed General White by the collar and struck him heavily in the face, stunning him and drawing blood from his mouth. General White tried to resist, struggling desperately, but he was no match for Android 8's strength, and he could not escape Android 8's hold. General White began to feign pitifulness, saying he was willing to abandon even his dignity just to survive. He pleaded tearfully. Chapter 507 The Red Ribbon Army. Please spare me. If you let me go, I'll give you everything I have, money, status, everything, just let me go. But General White had no idea that these things he valued so much were utterly useless to an android. Not everyone likes money and status. Android 8 smiled contemptuously, scoffing at General White's behavior. Looks like you're willing to give up anything for your dog's life. Did you used to love money and status the most? Just because you like them doesn't mean everyone does. You're wrong. These things are completely useless. General White clung to Android 8's leg, looking at him pitifully, and continued, What do you want? I can give you anything. I have so many things, there's bound to be something you need. General White was almost paranoid. He always thought he could buy Android 8's mercy with material things. Just as General White was still indulging in wishful thinking, Android 8 gave a cold answer. I just want your dog's life, to make you disappear from this world as soon as possible. Upon hearing this, General White's hopes were shattered, but he didn't want to die. He kept trying to negotiate with Android 8, but Android 8 wouldn't listen and found General White's chatter particularly annoying. Android 8 grew impatient and used its ultimate move to kill General White instantly, leaving his ears clear. Now that General White was gone, they should leave immediately, but Yi-Shen was injured, and Android 8 was very worried about their ability to get out safely. Yi-Shen woke up at this moment. He tried to stand up, but his movement aggravated the wound on his thigh. The blood that had flowed earlier had dried and stuck to his skin, making his pants stick to his thigh, which was extremely uncomfortable. Yi-Shen endured the pain and used a small knife to remove the bullet embedded in his flesh. The process was extremely bloody, and the pain was unimaginable. After removing the bullet, Yi-Shen was drenched in sweat. Even watching from the sidelines, Android 8 was on the edge of their seats. After removing the bullet, alcohol was needed for disinfection, but where could they find alcohol? Seeing Yi-Shen's difficulty moving, Android 8 searched General White's office and found several bottles of liquor on the left-hand bookshelf, including a bottle of high-proof spirit that could replace alcohol for disinfection. They couldn't find anything more effective at disinfection right now. Android 8 opened the bottle and said before pouring the liquor onto Yi-Shen's wound, "Bear with it, this will definitely hurt." Yi-Shen gritted his teeth and nodded, his eyes fixed on Android 8's movements as the liquor slowly poured onto the wound. Yi-Shen didn't flinch. The moment the alcohol touched his wound, the burning pain intensely stimulated his brain. Yi-Shen gritted his teeth, his whole body trembling with pain, groaning in agony until he couldn't bear it any longer and cried out. The disinfection process was finally over. Yi-Shen felt like he had lost half his life. His wound was given a simple treatment and bandaged by Homunculus 8. Yi-Shen knew very well that they had to leave as soon as possible. If they wasted any more time and the Red Ribbon officers discovered the scene, they wouldn't be able to leave even if they wanted to. But Homunculus 8 had a wish. Before leaving, he had to do one thing. What Homunculus 8 wanted to do was destroy Masruda, a place that was like hell, a place where countless people suffered. The source of evil. Yi-Shen agreed to Android 8's decision and gave him half an hour. Android 8 arrived at the foot of Masruda, looked at it for a few seconds, and then went back inside. This place was his dream, and he had to destroy it. Android 8 opened all the prison gates, and all the prisoners rushed out, good or bad, human or monster. The Red Ribbon Army would be busy from now on. After everyone was out, Android 8 set fire to Masruda and burned it down. Almost half an hour had passed since Android 8 left, and he needed to return to Yi-Shen's side as soon as possible. Android 8 returned and said to Yi-Shen, "Alright, we can leave now." Yi-Shen nodded and then used an incantation to summon the somersault cloud. The somersault cloud instantly appeared before them. The somersault cloud could change size at will. Yi-Shen made the somersault cloud a little larger, enough for 3 people to ride. This was the first time Android 8 and the village chief had seen the somersault cloud, and they found it very magical. Especially the village chief, an ordinary old man who had seen so many clouds in his life, all high in the sky. This was the first time he had ever seen clouds that could be controlled by people. The village chief reached up to touch it, but couldn't reach it when he got close enough. Suddenly a little scared, he asked, "Can we sit on this thing? Will we fall off?" While the village chief was still wondering, Yi-Shen simply grabbed their arms and lifted them up, and the 3 of them were sitting on the somersault cloud. This startled the village chief. As the somersault cloud rose higher and higher, the village chief kept his eyes closed the entire time, sitting obediently without moving, terrified of falling. Yi-Shen, however, was already used to it, and Android 8 was also a veteran of grand scenes. They admired the view below. Directly below them was the Red Ribbon Army's headquarters, and what Yi-Shen and his companions saw was chaos, with flames raging in the sky. This peaceful scene all stemmed from Android 8's last act, destroying Masruda. Those imprisoned in Masruda for a long time by the Red Ribbon Legion harbored deep resentment, and their hatred for the Red Ribbon was uncontrollable. Now that they had the chance to escape, they naturally sought revenge against the Red Ribbon Legion. The people who emerged from Masruda unleashed a frenzied revenge, relentlessly slaughtering members of the Red Ribbon Legion, looting, smashing, and burning things. The scene was utter chaos. The largest fire was burning Masruda itself. When Android 8 left, it had only set a small fire, but by the time they were in the air, Masruda was ablaze. Android 8 looked on with great satisfaction at the spectacle it had created, a truly beautiful sight. Because of the speed of the somersault cloud, Yi-Shen and his companions returned to the village in no time. They slowed down and landed, returning to the ground within the village. Some people noticed their return and went door to door to inform them. The first to receive the news were Suen Yuo and her daughter. Chapter 508 Dr. Abe. Suen Yuo ran over excitedly. She saw that Yi-Shen had brought a village chief back, along with a stranger. Without paying much attention, Suen Yuo exclaimed, "You're back. The village chief is back too." "Thank you, Yi-Shen." Yi-Shen smiled faintly and replied, "No need to thank me, it's nothing." Suen Yuo looked at Yi-Shen and saw him being supported by Android 8. Suen Yuo was puzzled and asked worriedly, "What happened to you?" Yi-Shen remained silent, not answering. When Suen Yuo looked at him, Yi-Shen looked away. Suen Yuo checked Yi-Shen and found an injury on his thigh. "How did you get this injury?" Suen Yuo asked in surprise. Artificial human number 8 answered for Yi-Shen, saying, "He was shot in the thigh by a pistol from the Red Ribbon Legion." Suen Yuo frowned. "It must hurt a lot. This simple treatment isn't enough. Let's go back quickly, I'll treat it carefully." Yi-Shen nodded, and Suen Yuo took his arm and helped him back. The village chief took artificial human number 8 to a banquet held by the villagers to welcome back the village chief and the great hero Yi-Shen. The village chief introduced artificial human number 8 to the villagers and told them about some of the things that happened at the Red Ribbon Legion headquarters. Now the villagers all knew artificial human number 8, and in their hearts, they had another hero who helped them. Yi Shen went home with Suen Yuo to treat the wound. Suen Yuo's house had all the necessary tools. Suen Yuo removed the bandages from Yi Shen's wound, disinfected it, replaced it with new gauze, and rebandaged it. After treating Yi Shen's wounds, Suen Yuo took him to a banquet specially prepared for them by the villagers. Today, Yi Shen and Android 8 were the main characters. Yi Shen, limping, arrived at the banquet venue with Suen Yuo's help. The villagers warmly welcomed him, shouting his name loudly. Yi Shen was a little embarrassed, blushing and lowering his head. Suen Yuo helped Yi Shen to his seat, and the villagers came one by one to toast him, truly grateful for his righteous help. Although Yi Shen was toasted by every villager, the villagers were exceptionally understanding. They didn't insist he drink. Everyone who toasted him drank it all in a hearty toast. Not only was Yi Shen their hero, but the villagers also toasted Android 8 and others. Under the villagers' warm hospitality, both Yi Shen and Android 8 felt the villagers' enthusiasm and gratitude. After several rounds of drinks, the banquet gradually came to an end. The village chief had someone take Yi Shen and Android 8 to rest. The village chief specially arranged a room for Android 8, wanting them to stay, as Android 8 had nowhere to go after leaving. However, Android 8 insisted on leaving. Android 8 refused the village chief's offer, which made the village chief a little embarrassed. Android 8 quickly explained, "Thank you for your kindness, village chief, but I can't stay." Suen Yuo asked innocently and curiously. "Why can't you? Even brother Yi Shen can stay," Android 8 said somewhat awkwardly. "Because I'm not safe, I might harm you." Suen Yuo was even more puzzled and asked in confusion. "How could that be? You're a good person, why would you harm us?" Android 8 thought for a moment and decided to tell everyone his secret, otherwise it would be difficult to explain. "Actually, it's not that I intended to harm everyone, but because there's a bomb inside my body, and I don't know when it will explode. For everyone's safety, it's better if I don't stay." Knowing the truth, Suno understood the predicament of Homunculus 8. "So that's how it is. What should we do then?" Homunculus 8 shook his head. "I don't know how to solve this problem either. This problem has been bothering me for a long time." Hearing this, the village chief wanted to help. Although he couldn't solve the problem himself, he knew a very capable doctor. This doctor was Dr. Bella Bay, who specialized in high-tech military technology and was very familiar with these fields, so going to him was definitely the right thing to do. The village chief remembered that he had some acquaintance with Dr. Bella Bay in his youth, and decided to introduce Homunculus 8 to Dr. Bella Bay. Perhaps Dr. Bella Bay would give him some face out of their past friendship and help Homunculus 8 solve the problem. So the village chief said, "I know someone who should be able to help you solve this problem. This person is Dr. Bella Bay, a friend of mine from my youth. I'll give you his address, go to him for help. I think he'll help you out of respect for me." The android was overjoyed to hear this and couldn't wait to find Dr. Bella Bay. The village chief saw that Android 8 was anxious, but still stopped him and gave him some instructions. "I'll let Suen Yuo go with you." Suen Yuo met Dr. Bella Bay when she was little, and Dr. Bella Bay even hugged her. Suen Yuo is clever and has a sweet tongue. She can help persuade Dr. Bella Bay if she goes with you. Suen Yuo was overjoyed. This was finally a chance to travel far away. She had never left this place before, and now she finally had a chance to see the outside world. Suen Yuo quickly agreed. "Great idea. Great idea. It's rare for Grandpa Village Chief to be so wise." Hee. Suen Yuo's joy was overflowing. She seemed even happier than Homunculus 8. Suen Yuo said confidently to everyone, "Don't worry, I will definitely use my charming personality to get Dr. Bella Bay to help this brother remove the bomb from his body. You must wait for our good news, and we'll celebrate properly then." The village chief affectionately patted Suen Yuo's head and said with a kind smile, "Okay, well I'll wait for you." However, Yi Shen looked troubled, and Suen Yuo noticed his hesitant expression. "Brother Yi Shen, is there something you want to say?" she asked. Yi Shen replied, "I'm afraid I can't wait for you to return." Suen Yuo pressed, "Why?" Yi Shen continued, "I have to complete my mission. I've already wasted a lot of time here. My companions must be very worried. They must be looking for me everywhere. I don't want them to worry anymore, so I need to find them and we can complete our mission together." Hearing this, Suen Yuo didn't want to stop him, but she pouted, a little unhappy. "Alright, go do your thing. I can't force you to stay, but we might never see each other again." Yi Shen patted Suen Yuo's head, comforting her gently. "It's okay, I'll come back to see you later." Sun Yuo immediately cheered up and asked curiously, "When will you come back to see me?" Yi Shen smiled, looking at Sun Yuo, and said, "That's hard to say." Chapter 509 Hidden Dangers. Sun Yuo lowered her head, rubbed her eyes, then looked up at Yi Shen with a smile and said, "Then brother Yi Shen, you must come see me soon, okay?" Yi Shen was completely helpless against Sun Yuo. She was just an innocent and adorable child. Okay, I'll come as soon as possible, pinky promise." Sun Yuo extended her hand, bending her little finger. Yi Shen, for the first time ever, did something so childish with Sun Yuo. The two pinky promised, thus making a promise. Yi Shen had to leave. After saying goodbye to everyone, he set off. When Yi Shen set off, the villagers gave him many things. Yi Shen knew these were their tokens of affection, so he didn't refuse them, regardless of whether they were useful or not. After Yi Shen left, Sun Yuo and Android 8 accompanied him for a while before parting ways with him. Yi Shen set off to find the Dragon Balls, carrying his dragon radar to search for the Dragon Balls left by his grandfather. However, after a long time, he discovered that the dragon radar had malfunctioned and could no longer locate the Dragon Balls, thus halting his search. Unable to repair the radar, Yi Shen had to seek help. He knew Bulma was skilled at fixing things, but she lived in the distant West City, a place that would take Yi Shen a considerable amount of time to reach. Having no other choice, he decided to head to West City to find Bulma. Yi Shen summoned his flying Nimbus, only to discover that he had left his capsule in the village, so he turned back. Unable to find the flying Nimbus, Yi Shen suspected he had left the capsule in the village, so he returned again. When Yi Shen returned to the village, the villagers were puzzled. One of them pulled Yi Shen aside and asked, "Why are you back again? You've been gone for quite a while." Yi Shen answered truthfully. "I realized I left something here. I came back to get it. It should be at Sun Yuo's house," Yi Shen said, heading towards Sun Yuo's house. Sun Yuo's mother saw him return and was about to ask what was wrong when Yi Shen spoke first. "Auntie, I forgot something. I came back to get it," Sun Yuo's mother said, standing in the kitchen. "Then go look for it. Have a meal before you leave," Yi Shen replied, entering his previous room. "No, Auntie, I'm in a hurry." Yi Shen went to the bedside, lifted the blanket and pillow, and found the superglue under his head. Thank goodness he found it. Yi Shen breathed a sigh of relief. He hurried out, quickly using the incantation, but the somersault cloud still wouldn't appear. Yi Shen wondered if the somersault cloud was broken. Just then, he bumped into an old man from the village. Seeing Yi Shen's distressed appearance, the old man knew he was in trouble and kindly asked, "Child, what's wrong? Is there anything I can help you with? I can't summon my flying Nimbus. Is it broken? I'm in a hurry. How am I supposed to get to Zeta with it?" Yi Shen was truly anxious this time. Fortunately, the old man he met this time was extraordinary. The old man told Yi Shen something. "Silly child, how could the flying Nimbus be broken? Check if you've placed it in the wrong position. Try reciting the incantation again." Yi Shen did as the old man said, and this time the flying Nimbus actually appeared. Yi Shen was very happy and thanked the old man. After thanking the old man, Yi Shen left the place, boarded the flying Nimbus, and headed towards Zeta. Yi Shen sped along, setting the flying Nimbus to its maximum speed. Meanwhile, on Sun Yuo and Android 8's side, they set off towards the address given by the village chief to find Dr. Bellatrix. However, they were unaware that a group of people were following them. This group was after the Dragon Balls. It was actually a misunderstanding. They thought Yi Shen was with them and that they were on the same road. So, this group had made a mistake. Coincidentally, this group was led by the Purple Ninja, who, in order to steal the Dragon Balls, had been secretly following Android 8 and Suno. Following the address of Dr. Bellatrix's research lab given to them by the village chief, Suno led Android 8 forward. Along the way, Android 8 and Suno didn't notice the Purple Ninja and his group. Finally, Suno took Android 8 to Dr. Bellatrix's lab. Suno explained their identities and origins, and the purpose for being there. After hearing their story, Dr. Bellatrix agreed to help his old friend's recommendation. Dr. Bellatrix was indeed very capable. He successfully removed the bomb from Android 8's body in less than an hour. From then on, Android 8 had no more worries. Suno and Android 8 had completed their mission. Android 8 was no longer a threat. They were very grateful for Dr. Bellatrix's help, bid him farewell, and went home. Suno returned to the village with Android 8, but the purple ninja who had been following them realized he had followed the wrong people. He discovered that Yi-Shen wasn't with Suno and the others, and they weren't there to find the Dragon Zero Orb. So the purple ninja changed direction and inquired about Yi-Shen's whereabouts. After obtaining confirmation, the purple ninja and his men gave chase. Meanwhile, Yi-Shen was still on his way to Zidu. He was extremely anxious, having finally arrived, but encountered a problem. Since Yi-Shen had never been to Bulma's house, he didn't know where she was in Zidu. He felt he was in trouble. Zidu was so big, finding a friend whose address he didn't know in such a large city was incredibly difficult for Yi-Shen. He was very anxious and wanted to find Bulma as quickly as possible, not wanting to waste any more time. So, he came up with a good idea: he should call the police. So Yi-Shen went to the police station and told the officers he was there to see a friend, but didn't know the friend's address, only the name. The police looked up Bulma's address for Yi-Shen and found it. Yi-Shen could now go find Bulma, but the officer was a little worried, concerned that Yi-Shen was a bad person and might be there to cause trouble for Bulma. Yi-Shen's actions made the officer very uneasy, so he went with him to Bulma's house. Led by the officer, Yi-Shen found Bulma's house, but when he arrived, Bulma wasn't home. So Yi-Shen had to wait for her to return, and the officer waited with him. The officer only left after confirming that Yi-Shen and Bulma were friends. Chapter 510 Sky Paradise. The police waited for Bulma to return. Soon after, Bulma finally came home. She was overjoyed to see Yi-Shen at her doorstep. Initially surprised, she quickly ran towards him, hugging him tightly before letting go. "How did you get here? I can't believe you found my house." "How did you find it?" Bulma asked two questions in quick succession, and Yi-Shen answered them one by one. "Well, my Dragon Ball radar broke down, and I couldn't locate the Dragon Balls. I couldn't continue looking for them. I remembered you're very good at fixing things, so I came to find you. Actually, I couldn't find your house on my own. It's all thanks to this police officer who helped me find it," Bulma said politely to the officer. "Thank you so much, police officer. My friend found my house thanks to you," the officer said, waving his hand. "You're welcome. It's what we should do. Since you're friends, I won't bother you any longer. I'll be leaving now." The policeman finished speaking and left. He went to start his motorcycle, but found it was broken and wouldn't start. He was at a loss. He didn't know how to repair motorcycles and couldn't figure out the problem. There were no repair shops nearby, so he had no choice but to turn back to find Bulma and Yi-Shen, because he had overheard them talking about how good Bulma was at fixing things. The policeman knocked on Bulma's door. Bulma heard the knock and opened it, Yi-Shen following her. Seeing the policeman, Bulma asked curiously, "Is there anything I can help you with?" The policeman said apologetically, "Well, my motorcycle broke down, and it's parked downstairs. I don't know how to fix it, and there aren't any repair shops nearby. I hope you can help me." Bulma readily agreed to the policeman's request, saying, "No problem, it's my honor to help you, especially since you just helped my friend." Yi-Shen nodded as well. The policeman said happily, "That's wonderful. Please come with me." Bulma went home and got some car repair tools. Then, Yi-Shen and Bulma followed the policeman downstairs to his motorcycle. Bulma took out her tools and watched as she began repairing the motorcycle. Bulma seemed very skilled and calm, working methodically. After about several tens of minutes, Bulma stood up, clapped her hands, and wiped them on a handkerchief, indicating that the motorcycle was fixed. "The motorcycle is fixed," Bulma told the policeman. The policeman thanked Bulma excitedly. "Thank you so much. I never expected such a young girl to have such amazing skills." Bulma felt embarrassed by the policeman's words, scratching her head and smiling shyly. Afterwards, the policeman said goodbye to Yi-Shen and Bulma, got on his motorcycle, and left. After the policeman left, Bulma and Yi-Shen went upstairs to their home. Bulma opened the door and invited Yi-Shen in. Yi-Shen entered Bulma's house and found it very large, seemingly very wealthy, and the furnishings were very stylish, filled with novelties he had never seen before. Since arriving in the big city of Zidu, Yi-Shen had been very curious about everything. He found many new things fascinating. Bulma's house was very large. She bought it to house her many strange and wonderful things. Bulma loved technology and had a deep understanding of it, so she created many inventions herself. Bulma had always enjoyed doing this because it gave her a sense of accomplishment and brought her joy. This was Yi-Shen's first visit to Bulma's house, and Bulma, of course, wanted to show her friend all her inventions. So, Bulma led Yi-Shen to a room specifically for displaying her inventions and invited him to look around. Yi-Shen found Bulma's inventions amazing and admired her even more. He couldn't understand any of them. Yi-Shen wandered around, observing each invention. While he observed, Bulma stood beside him and explained. Bulma explained things to Yi-Shen as if she were introducing her own child, showing great pride. After listening, Yi-Shen wanted to try them all out. Because Yi-Shen and Bulma were good friends, Bulma agreed and allowed him to play with each one. So, Yi-Shen experienced each invention, finding them all very interesting and practically useful. After finally finishing their tour of Bulma's inventions, Yi-Shen and Bulma left the room. Yi-Shen had some questions for Bulma, so they sat down on the sofa. Yi-Shen asked, Bulma, why do you like doing these things? Other girls like clothes and cosmetics. Bulma poured Yi-Shen a glass of water and handed it to him, answering, it all started with my personality. Since I was little, I've liked to discover and observe strange things that others don't easily notice, subtle things that others miss. I find enjoyment in them, and gradually I developed a love for this unique feeling. I didn't want to be like most girls. Yi-Shen took a sip of water, put down the glass, and said, I see. So how did you get into science and technology? It's simple, Bulma replied. My teacher used to say that girls aren't good at this, not as good as boys. So I secretly studied hard, vowing to catch up with the boys. We girls can't fall behind. Yi-Shen was very encouraged by her words and said admiringly. You've not just caught up, you've surpassed most boys, Bulma chuckled. Yi-Shen remembered that after arriving in S.H.I.E.L.D, he had discovered many new things, and he really wanted to experience them. So Bulma decided to take him to S.H.I.E.L.D's largest amusement park, the Sky Park, the next day for a good time. Let's go to the Sky Park tomorrow, Bulma said. Yi-Shen hadn't been to an amusement park in a long time. After all, he was only 12, so it was understandable that he liked these things. Okay, I haven't been in ages, and so the two agreed to go to the Sky Park tomorrow. Chapter 511 Kneeling and Begging for Mercy. As Yi-Shen was a guest, Bulma decided to take him out for some fun. Yi-Shen had never been to S.H.I.E.L.D before, and Bulma wanted to be a good host and show him the charm of the city. Bulma took Yi-Shen out, and they visited many places. Along the way, Yi-Shen was very curious about many new and interesting things. Bulma, being a wealthy woman, bought Yi-Shen many things. Finally, the two of them were tired and found a restaurant to eat at. Bulma took Yi-Shen to a restaurant she frequented, saying, Tonight we'll have a big meal. I think this restaurant has the best food in all of S.H.I.E.L.D. You'll see when the food arrives, Yi-Shen nodded, and then Bulma ordered. After a while, all the dishes were served, a table full of food that the two of them couldn't possibly finish. Bulma had spent a lot of money on Yi-Shen, but it was nothing to her. Bulma treated Yi-Shen to a lavish meal, and after they finished eating to their heart's content, they returned to Bulma's home. Yi-Shen spent the night at Bulma's house. When he woke up the next morning, Bulma was already ready and waiting for him to go to the Sky Park together, as they had agreed the day before. After getting ready, Yi-Shen followed Bulma out, and they arrived at the Sky Park in S.H.I.E.L.D. When Yi-Shen saw the Sky Park, he was stunned. It was much larger than any he had ever seen before, and its design was incredibly fun, making everyone want to try it. Bulma was very excited, and she dragged Yi-Shen to experience every single ride. They played all morning, until finally Yi-Shen couldn't take it anymore, and Bulma refused to stop. After a few of the crazy rides, Yi-Shen became dizzy, vomited, and had diarrhea. Seeing how uncomfortable he was, Bulma gave up on the remaining rides. They rested in the rest area for a while, and seeing that Bulma still seemed eager to continue, Yi-Shen agreed to accompany her to try some gentler rides, to which Bulma agreed. Yi-Shen and Bulma went to ride bumper cars. Bulma bought a bunch of food, and the two of them ate while sitting in the bumper cars, completely oblivious to the fun. Their cars were constantly being bumped into by other cars, but they didn't care. Yi-Shen and Bulma were unaware of their surroundings. They didn't know that a group of people were watching them. This group was the Purple Ninja and his henchmen, who had traveled thousands of miles to West Capital to obtain the Dragon Balls from Yi-Shen. After arriving in West Capital, the Purple Ninja searched everywhere for Yi-Shen's whereabouts. Finally, his henchmen found Yi-Shen at the Sky Park in West Capital, So the Purple Ninja and all his men went to the Sky Park. The Purple Ninja observed Yi Shen's every move and discovered that Yi Shen was with a girl, and the two of them were eating. The Purple Ninja wanted to play a trick, so he hid in a secluded spot and fired a nut at Yi Shen. At that moment, Yi Shen picked up a potato chip and put it in his mouth. The nut hit the potato chip, piercing it and shattering it instantly. The walnut came within a centimeter of Yi Shen's mouth, a truly terrifying moment that startled him. Yi Shen initially thought it was a prank, looking around but finding no one suspicious. He found it strange, assuming someone had accidentally thrown it, and continued chatting with Bulma. A while later, the Purple Ninja, seeing Yi Shen's nonchalant attitude, became smug. He had intended to play a trick on Yi Shen, so he hid in the shadows, picked up another walnut, and launched it at Yi Shen's head. The walnut flew towards Yi Shen's head, but this time Yi Shen sensed something was wrong. Just as the walnut was about to hit him, he quickly pulled out something to block it. The Purple Ninja watched from a distance, feeling a little disappointed that Yi Shen had blocked the walnut. However, what surprised the Purple Ninja and his subordinates was that they had never encountered such a formidable opponent, nor had they ever seen anyone anticipate the Purple Ninja's walnut attack. The Purple Ninja and his henchmen, realizing they couldn't ambush Yi Shen, devised another plan. They decided to disguise themselves as amusement park customers, ride the bumper cars, and then use the opportunity to get close to Yi Shen and attack him. The Purple Ninja adopted this suggestion, and they all went to ride the bumper cars. Suddenly, the entire bumper car area was almost empty except for Yi Shen, Bulma, the Purple Ninja, and his men. At first, Yi Shen and his companions didn't notice anything amiss until the Purple Ninja and his men started repeatedly ramming them with their cars. Yi Shen realized something was wrong. He recognized a familiar figure among the crowd. Searching his memory, he finally remembered, it was the Purple Ninja. He hadn't expected them to follow him here. Intrigued, Yi Shen decided to have some fun with these people. He put down his food, gripped the steering wheel, and began driving the bumper car, ramming into the Purple Ninja and his men. Yi Shen's skills were excellent. He nimbly dodged the Purple Ninja and his henchmen's attacks and could launch surprise attacks on the Purple Ninja. However, Bulma, riding in Yi Shen's bumper car, wasn't so lucky. Because Yi Shen drove the bumper car so recklessly, it resembled a traffic jam, constantly changing direction and speed. Bulma, who hadn't been nauseous before, was almost throwing up. Finally, after a fierce chase, the Purple Ninja's henchmen were thrown around by Yi Shen, creating a hilarious scene. The Purple Ninja lost his fighting spirit and dared not confront Yi Shen directly. Angrily, he slammed something on the ground and pointed at Yi Shen, saying, "Come down, one-on-one." Yi Shen chuckled lightly, speaking nonchalantly. "Alright, let me show you how you were defeated by me a few days ago." The Purple Ninja, unwilling to admit defeat, barked. "Last time was an accident, this time I'll make you beg for mercy on your knees," Yi Shen said indifferently. "Then try it, and see who loses in the end." The Purple Ninja's fighting spirit was ignited, and he said to his subordinates, "I want to fight him one-on-one, don't interfere." The Purple Ninja's subordinates nodded. The match began, and the Purple Ninja, unable to contain himself, launched the first attack. The Purple Ninja's moves were fast and ruthless, but Yi Shen countered them one by one, seemingly quite relaxed. To be honest, the Purple Ninja's strength was not as great as the opponents Yi Shen had faced in the world's #1 martial arts tournament, so Yi Shen dealt with the Purple Ninja with ease. Chapter 512 General White. The Purple Ninja was extremely impatient and had lost his composure. He abandoned all strategy and focused solely on attacking Yi Shen, resulting in a predictably crushing defeat. Even after being knocked to the ground by Yi Shen, the Purple Ninja refused to admit defeat and tried to get up to fight again. Yi Shen shook his head and left the Sky Park with Bulma. The Purple Ninja's subordinates only dared to help him up after Yi Shen and Bulma had left. Having witnessed a match, they now understood just how powerful Yi Shen was. During the match, they hadn't dared to move an inch, not even breathe loudly, let alone help the Purple Ninja, especially since he had forbidden them from interfering. Having shaken off the Purple Ninja, Yi Shen went home with Bulma. Yi Shen and Bulma's good mood was completely ruined by the Purple Ninja and his group, but the worst off was the Purple Ninja himself. He was covered in welts and seriously injured after the match, requiring at least 2 weeks of hospitalization. This could be considered a problem solved, at least for the next 2 weeks. The Purple Ninja wouldn't bother Yi Shen anymore. After Yi Shen and Bulma returned home, Yi-Shen took out the Dragon Ball radar and handed it to Bulma, who took it. Yi-Shen said to Bulma, "Take this and see what's wrong, see if you can fix it." Bulma winked at Yi-Shen, confidently saying, "Don't worry, I'll definitely fix it for you," Yi-Shen teased. "Wow, so confident," Bulma said proudly. "Of course, you know who I am." After saying that, Bulma took the Dragon Ball radar back to her high-tech room and closed the door. Bulma stayed in that room for about an hour or two. During this time, Yi-Shen watched TV in the living room, and could occasionally hear the clanging and knocking sounds coming from the room. 2 hours later, Bulma opened the door, came out with a Dragon Ball radar, handed it to Yi-Shen, and said, "See if it's fixed. See if it's the same as before." Yi-Shen took the Dragon Ball radar and checked it over and over, then turned it on and used it as before. Finding it working the same way, he happily told Bulma, "Bulma, thank you, it's fixed." "You're amazing, it works even better than before," Bulma said shyly. It's okay, no need to thank me, it's good that it works." After saying that, Bulma pressed on. "Are you going to find the Dragon Balls?" "I want to go with you too," Yi-Shen asked. "Are you sure?" Bulma said confidently. "Yes, I'm sure. Anyway, I'm home alone, it's kind of boring. I might as well go with you to find the Dragon Balls, it's better than staying at home." "I just want to go out for a walk," Yi-Shen thought for a moment and answered Bulma. "Okay, since you want to go, you can come with me," Bulma said happily. Okay, the two agreed that Yi-Shen would take Bulma to find the Dragon Balls. Yi-Shen felt he had already wasted 2 days in West Capital and couldn't afford to waste any more time, so he packed his bags and left West Capital the next day with Bulma. Yi-Shen and Bulma embarked on their journey to find the Dragon Balls once more. Meanwhile, at the Red Ribbon Army headquarters, General White learned of news related to Yi-Shen. The Purple Ninja brought the news back, tearfully recounting to General White how cruelly Yi-Shen had treated him. The Purple Ninja embellished the story, and General White grew increasingly angry. He had long harbored resentment towards Yi-Shen. And hearing the Purple Ninja's words made it seem as if Yi-Shen had indeed treated him this way. Finally, General White gritted his teeth and issued an order, demanding that his men seize the Dragon Balls from Yi-Shen at all costs and kill him. General White was truly enraged this time. He didn't care how powerful Yi-Shen was, he just wanted Yi-Shen dead and his Dragon Balls. Yi-Shen had made many enemies because of the Dragon Balls, most of whom wished he were dead. It wasn't just Yi-Shen and General White who wanted the Dragon Balls, General Blue and his men were also searching for them throughout the territory under General Blue's jurisdiction. One day, General Blue's men reported to him, "General, 2 unfamiliar young men have entered our territory. Based on our comparison, we've discovered that these 2 young men are Yi-Shen and his friend." General Blue was very surprised and asked, "Yi-Shen? The Yi-Shen who won the World Martial Arts Tournament?" General Blue's soldier nodded, confirming, "Yes." General Blue laughed heartily. "Haha, we're waiting for Yi-Shen's arrival, making full preparations. We've heard he has several Dragon Balls. Once we get them, the Dragon Balls will soon be ours." "Oh, ha ha ha." General Blue laughed wildly, imagining the wonderful world he dreamed of, where he would be the king, the ruler of this world. Meanwhile, Yi-Shen and Bulma were unaware that they had entered General Blue's territory, nor that General Blue was aware of their arrival and was already prepared to meet them. Sitting on the flying Nimbus, they searched for the Dragon Balls without a care in the world, while Yi-Shen used the Dragon Radar to locate them. The cool breeze on the flying Nimbus was very comfortable. Bulma stretched and moved closer to Yi-Shen, watching him fiddle with his Dragon Radar. They had traveled to so many places along the way without finding any trace of the Dragon Balls. The Dragon Radar hadn't shown any information about them. "This is too difficult. We've been searching for days, and we haven't even found a shadow of them," Yi-Shen reassured Bulma. "Just hang in there a little longer, maybe there's hope ahead." It wasn't until Yi-Shen and Bulma continued their journey into General Blue's territory that the Dragon Radar showed some changes. A specific location appeared on the edge of the radar, which was likely where the Dragon Balls were located. Yi-Shen was overjoyed. After searching for so long, he had finally found another Dragon Ball, and Bulma was equally delighted. Yi-Shen led Bulma towards the location shown on the Dragon Ball radar, which indicated they were still quite a distance away. Behind them, members of the Red Ribbon Army had been following them. Yi-Shen hadn't noticed them at first, until he sensed something was wrong and looked behind him, only then realizing that a group of people had been following them at a considerable distance. Unable to determine their identities, Yi-Shin decided to eliminate them for safety's sake. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 513, The Thousand-Year-Old Tortoise. Yi-Shin slowed down his somersault cloud and gently landed on the ground. A group of people were driving, and Yi-Shin blocked their way. Forcing them to stop, Yi-Shin walked over and found that they were indeed members of the Red Ribbon Legion. The Red Ribbon Legion members panicked when they saw Yi-Shin stop their car, unsure what to do. Yi-Shin coldly said, "Get out, all of you." These Red Ribbon Legion members already knew of Yi-Shin's reputation, and they got out of their cars with trepidation, standing obediently before him, knowing how terrifying he was. Seeing their obedient demeanor, Yi-Shin hesitated to attack. However, one of them was reckless. He tried to ambush Yi-Shin from behind while he was off guard. Fortunately, Bulma noticed and stopped him. Bulma said to Yi-Shin, "This person tried to ambush you." Yi-Shin sneered. "I was initially planning to let you off the hook because you all behaved quite well, but you courted death. So don't blame me, blame your partners." With that, Yi-Shin made his move, quickly eliminating the group. These men were actually sent by General Blue to track Yi-Shin's movements and report back to him. General Blue had prepared a plan to deal with Yi-Shin, but unfortunately, he had lost his intelligence. With Yi-Shin gone, General Blue could no longer easily monitor Yi-Shin's actions. This was General Blue's plan, but it had been disrupted. General Blue was anxious, having received no new information at the base for a long time, wondering what had happened. Yi-Shin and Bulma continued on their way. One of the men Yi-Shin had dealt with wasn't completely eliminated. He woke up, escaped back to the base, and reported what had happened to General Blue. This escaped man explained to General Blue how Yi-Shin had dealt with him. General Blue was furious. Not only had Yi-Shin attacked his men, but he had also disrupted his plans. Now that they've lost track of Yi-Shin's whereabouts, they have no choice but to go find him again. General Blue dispatched most of his men to search for Yi-Shin's trail, intending to capture him once they found him. However, Yi-Shin and Bulma are now quite far away, making it difficult for General Blue's men to locate him. Yi-Shin and Bulma traveled for a long time towards the location shown on the Dragon Ball radar. Meanwhile, the location on the radar became increasingly clear. Yi-Shin could clearly see that the location was in an ocean area, very close to Master Roshi's island. This was very bad news for Yi-Shin. If the Dragon Balls were in the ocean, then they must be at the bottom of the sea. If they were indeed at the bottom of the sea, how would Yi-Shin obtain them? This became a major problem. Yi-Shin couldn't think of a solution for the time being, so he decided to go to Master Roshi's island to seek his advice. Master Roshi had lived for so long and possessed great wisdom, and he had many strange and wonderful treasures. Having made his decision, Yi-Shin took Bulma on the Flying Nimbus to Master Roshi's island. They traveled quickly on the Flying Nimbus and arrived at Master Roshi's island after some time. Yi-Shin had been there many times before, so he was very familiar with the area and could even find Master Roshi's house on his own. He led Bulma to Master Roshi's door and knocked. They heard a familiar voice. It was Master Roshi. "Who is it?" "I'm cooking." "Wait a minute, I'll be right there," Yi-Shin explained to Bulma. "That's just how this old man is." Bulma smiled and said, "He's so cute." "He must be a very cute little old man," Yi-Shin retorted. "Pshaw, little old man? He's probably old enough to be my great-grandfather." Bulma was speechless and rolled her eyes at Yi-Shin. After their banter, Master Roshi opened the door and was surprised to see Yi-Shin and a little girl. Yi-Shin was already quite familiar with Master Roshi, and he casually complained, "It took you so long to open the door. Is this how you treat your guests?" Master Roshi retorted, pouting. "You have the nerve to say that to me? Look at you, you must have arrived right on time, right at mealtime. You're just here to freeload, aren't you?" Master Roshi replied. "TCH, who cares about your cooking? It's not even good," Master Roshi stammered, annoyed. You actually say my cooking is bad? Then why did you eat so much before?" "Humph," Master Roshi crossed his arms, pouting, looking dissatisfied. Master Roshi suddenly changed his tune and said, "That's because I was too hungry before," Master Roshi teased. "And this time," Master Roshi said with a grin, I'm still hungry this time too, Master Roshi snorted twice. That's more like it. Bulma found the conversation between the two really interesting. Afterwards, Master Roshi invited Master Roshi and Bulma to his house. When they entered, the food was already laid out on the table. Bulma thought Master Roshi was a really adorable old man, his house was neatly arranged, and the food smelled delicious. Yi-Shen was already quite familiar with Master Roshi's house. He took Bulma to wash her hands, and after they finished, he and Bulma sat obediently at the table waiting for dinner. Master Roshi came out of the kitchen with 2 more sets of bowls and chopsticks. When he came out and saw Yi-Shen and Bulma already sitting obediently at the table, he handed them the bowls and chopsticks. Yi-Shen casually accepted them, and Bulma politely accepted them as well. Master Roshi said to Yi-Shen and Bulma, "Luckily, I made so many dishes today." Yi-Shen continued, "Did you calculate the date correctly, knowing we would come to your house today?" Master Roshi rolled his eyes at Yi-Shen and said, "Do you think I have that ability?" Yi-Shen said pretentiously. "Isn't there a saying, a tortoise lives for 1,000 years, 10,000 years? You must be very powerful." Master Roshi knew that Yi-Shen would become unserious around him, and he knocked the meat that Yi-Shen was holding out of his hand with his chopsticks. Master Roshi piled all the meat into Bulma's bowl, saying, "Eat more meat. Look how thin you are. Look at someone else, so fat, and they're still eating meat. Do they deserve it?" Master Roshi glanced at Yi-Shen. Their banter was quite amusing. Master Roshi was clearly biased towards Bulma, and Yi-Shen protested, "Why did you give all the meat to Bulma?" "You're being unfair," Master Roshi retorted confidently. "So what if I'm biased? I just like well-behaved girls like Bulma. Unlike you, all you do is argue with me and nothing else." Chapter 514 I God. Bulma found it quite amusing to watch the two dickering at the dinner table. From her observation, she noticed that Master Roshi and Yi-Shen had a particularly good relationship, so they didn't hold back when talking. Bulma found Master Roshi's down-to-earth personality endearing. So, Bulma and Yi-Shen enjoyed their meal amidst laughter and conversation. After dinner, they sat on the sofa to relax, while Yagami casually picked up the remote and turned on the TV. Since Yi-Shen and Bulma were guests, Master Roshi busied himself clearing the table and tidying up the kitchen after dinner, washing the dishes. Once he finished, Master Roshi joined Yagami and Yi-Shen in the living room to watch TV. Yagami hadn't enjoyed such treatment in a long time, as he had been constantly on his quest for the Dragon Balls. His daily grind and irregular schedule had left him no time to relax and enjoy life, let alone such a leisurely day. Master Roshi sat down next to Yi-Shen and said, "You must have come to see me for something, otherwise you wouldn't have suddenly come to me. You're usually so busy. So tell me, what is it that you've come to see me for? Or have you encountered some trouble that I can help you with?" Master Roshi was particularly enthusiastic, and he took the initiative to ask Yi-Shen. This request didn't seem to bother him at all. He could very naturally state what he wanted. He wanted Master Roshi's help. So Yi-Shen said, "You're absolutely right. Actually, the reason I came to see you this time is because I've encountered a problem that I can't solve myself. I thought you might have something I need, so I came to see you." Master Roshi continued to ask, "So what do you want to borrow from me?" Yi-Shen replied, "I wonder if you have a submarine here. I need a submarine because I need to go to the bottom of the sea. If you have one, I hope you can lend it to me." After hearing this, Master Roshi felt very puzzled, so he asked Yi-Shen, "What do you need a submarine for?" "What do you need a submarine for?" Yi-Shen replied. "Because my Dragon Ball radar detected the location of a Dragon Ball in the waters near your island. Based on the location, it seems this Dragon Ball has sunk to the bottom of the sea." Master Roshi, hearing Yi-Shen's reply, finally understood that Yi-Shen wanted to borrow the submarine to search for the Dragon Ball. Master Roshi realized that since it was to find the Dragon Ball, he would definitely support it. Therefore, he agreed to contact his submarine. Just as Yi-Shen and Master Roshi were talking, Bulma accidentally revealed her transformation bracelet. The bracelet on Bulma's wrist looked very exquisite and beautiful. When Master Roshi saw it, he immediately became interested. He really liked the design and asked Bulma, "What is this? It looks so pretty." Bulma raised her hand and asked Master Roshi with a puzzled look, "Is this what you mean?" "Oh, this thing is called a transformation bracelet. It allows you to transform into different forms, becoming whatever you want." Master Roshi was very surprised and curious about it, so he continued to ask, "Really? Can I borrow it to take a look?" Bulma readily agreed and quickly took off the transformation bracelet from her hand and handed it to Master Roshi. Master Roshi took the transformation bracelet from Bulma and put it on his wrist. However, Master Roshi didn't know how to use it. "How do I use this?" Master Roshi asked Bulma. So Bulma went to the bracelet and showed Master Roshi how to use it. Actually, the way to use the bracelet is very simple. You just need to activate the button on the transformation bracelet, and then you can follow the instructions on the screen to select the form you want to become. Master Roshi immediately understood, and he followed Bulma's instructions, quickly learning how to use the transformation bracelet. Master Roshi activated the transformation bracelet and quickly selected the identity he wanted to become. Sure enough, the bracelet transformed him into the desired form, and Master Roshi was overjoyed. He loved this treasure. Suddenly, Master Roshi changed his mind. He had been thrilled to lend his vestibule to Uruchi, but after seeing the bracelet, he wanted to exchange it for Bulma's transformation bracelet in exchange for a submarine. So Master Roshi said, "I really like this thing of yours. Could you give it to me? If you give it to me, then I can lend you the submarine." Yi Shen, not expecting Master Roshi to be so stingy, said with a hint of anger, "We're just asking to borrow something, and you're being so stingy, asking us for something." But Bulma didn't care, because this was something she had invented. Giving it to Master Roshi would get them the submarine they wanted. It wasn't a big deal. She could always redesign a transformation bracelet. Bulma stopped Yi Shen, hoping he wouldn't say any more. Bulma politely addressed Master Roshi. "It's alright, take it if you like it," Master Roshi said proudly to Yagami. "Look how sensible this little girl is, unlike you, Yagami," Master Roshi glared at. Although after some discussion, Master Roshi agreed to lend the submarine to Yagami and Bulma, they couldn't immediately go to sea to search for the Dragon Balls. They needed to wait for two people to return. The two people Yagami and Bulma were waiting for were named Korin and Lancelot. Actually, these two were helpers arranged by Master Roshi for Yagami and Bulma. Korin and Lancelot were very skilled at diving and knew how to operate a submarine. They could be of great help to Yagami and Bulma. Korin and Lancelot were two children who grew up by the sea. They were excellent swimmers and divers, and they could play a significant role in Yagami and Bulma's voyage. However, since Korin and Lancelot were out, Yagami and Bulma had to continue waiting for them to return from their home on Mount Kame. Leaf God and Bulma could also take this opportunity to rest. So, after a while, Krillin and Rumble returned. Krillin and Rumble went back to their homes, and then Master Roshi went to their homes to invite them to Master Roshi's house. Chapter 515 Dark Canyon. Master Roshi easily summoned Kirin and Lanky to his house, and then it was time to discuss the matter. Master Roshi went straight to the point, saying to Kirin and Lanky, "Boys, I need your help now." The slightly chubby one, named Lanky, said to Master Roshi. "Just tell us what it is, and we'll definitely help if we can," Master Roshi replied. "Here's the thing, these two friends of mine have come from afar, and I hope I can help them with something. They want to borrow my submarine, but I'm too old to operate it properly, and you two know how to use it. I hope you two can help them use the submarine." Lanky and Kulin were very excited when they heard this news because piloting a submarine to the seabed was a lot of fun, and they couldn't wait. So they happily agreed. Great, no problem at all. So the matter was settled, and Kulin and Lanky readily agreed to help Yushin and his friends. Now it was time to get the submarine out. Master Roshi's submarine had been stored in his large warehouse. Master Roshi led a few young people to his warehouse and slowly moved the submarine outside. The submarine was launched directly into the water. It was very small and exquisite, looking brand new, and hadn't been used much. Actually, a smaller submarine is easier to operate, enough for the young people to use. Yushin was the first to enter the submarine. As he entered, he carefully observed the situation inside. God had to admit it. The submarine's internal structure was incredibly complex. Without the help of Kirin and Langchi, he and Bulma alone wouldn't have been able to handle it. This was Yushin's first time entering a submarine and observing its internal structure. Bulma then followed him inside. Bulma was very interested in such high-tech gadgets and thought that if she had the chance in the future, she could even build a new one based on this submarine. However, Langchi and Kirin were very familiar with the submarine. It wasn't their first time inside one. They easily made their way to the cockpit. Next came the moment Yushin had been most looking forward to. Their submarine was launched. Following the instructions, it would slowly sink. Kieran and Lang-Chi piloted the submarine into the sea. They had seen the underwater world before, as they frequently went to sea, but for Yi-Shen and Bulma, this was their first time venturing into the world below the surface. Yagami and Bulma gazed curiously at the underwater world outside the submarine's glass window. They saw many creatures they had never seen before, especially a wide variety of fish. Strange fish swam past them, their eyes completely captivated by their beauty and peculiarities. When Bulma spotted a particularly large blue whale, she excitedly pointed at it and exclaimed to Yagami, "Look! What kind of fish is that? It's so big." Yagami didn't know what kind of fish it was, he only knew that whales were the largest creatures in the ocean, but he couldn't identify the species. Unable to answer Bulma's question, Yagami remained silent. However, Kira and Lang-Chi quickly provided the answer. Kira told Bulma, "That huge fish is called a blue whale. You'll see even more amazing things later." Bulma was incredibly excited, her eyes wide with childlike wonder as she watched the scenery outside the window. Bulma frequently encountered creatures she had never seen before, each one piquing her curiosity, especially their bizarre shapes and vibrant colors. When Kirin told her they would see even more strange creatures, her anticipation for the journey grew even stronger. During their dive into the ocean, Yagami used his Dragon Ball radar to pinpoint the location of the Dragon Ball. According to the radar's indications, their direction was aligned with the location of the Dragon Ball, and the distance was decreasing. Finally, following the radar's guidance, they arrived at the radar's location. In this deep and dark underwater canyon, their vision became increasingly blurred. The radar finally settled on this spot, confirming that the Dragon Ball was indeed in this area. However, even with the exact location of the Dragon Ball, finding it wouldn't be easy. In this vast ocean, searching for a small ball was like looking for a needle in a haystack. On Yi-Shen and Bulma's side, they had already located the exact location of the Dragon Balls. However, on General White's side, his men were frantically searching for eyes. Based on clues, they learned that Yagami had reached the vicinity of the island where Master Roshi was, so they rushed there. One of General White's men was exceptionally skilled at tracking, allowing him to locate Yi-Shen even from a distance. After finding Yi-Shen's location, General White and his men set off to search for him. General White and his men arrived over Master Roshi's island in the plain. Seeing the island, they assumed Yi-Shen was nearby and landed. Upon landing, General White spotted Master Roshi's house, mistaking it for Yagami's. He and his men gathered outside the house, ready to capture eyes. General White brought a large number of his men. They almost completely surrounded Master Roshi's house, but inside, Master Roshi was peacefully watching television, completely unaware of what was happening outside. General White walked to the door and rudely kicked it. Startled by the noise, Master Roshi, unsure what was happening, got up, put down the remote, and went to open the door. Chapter 516 Full Speed Ahead. But when Master Roshi opened the door, he realized danger was imminent. A very burly man stood in the doorway, his eyes fixed menacingly on Master Roshi, followed by a line of his men. Master Roshi didn't recognize him and didn't know why he had come here. While Master Roshi was still pondering these things, the burly man spoke first, asking, "Is this Yagami's house?" Hearing General White's question, Master Roshi knew this was an enemy Yagami had made outside, who had likely found his way here. Master Roshi could only shake his head and say, "This isn't anyone's house you're talking about. This is my house. You must have the wrong place," General White said fiercely. "How could we be wrong? Yagami is clearly nearby. Tell me honestly, did you hide it somewhere? Or are you trying to hide it from us? If we find out you're hiding something, you'll be in big trouble. We'll make you suffer." While General White was threatening Master Roshi's son, he was also observing Master Roshi. He thought Master Roshi looked very intelligent, almost like a scientist. Therefore, he concluded that this place was the source of the Night God's energy, and the old man before him was the scientist who created the Dragon Ball radar. Since General White had already made this decision, no matter how Master Roshi explained, it wouldn't matter, because General White wouldn't believe anyone. Especially when it came to matters related to the Night God, General White would lose his rationality and his normal judgment. He mistakenly believed all information to be true. Master Roshi was very helpless and could only say, "There really isn't any Night God here." General White became even angrier and said to his subordinates behind him, "He must be in cahoots with Yi-Shen and his group. Someone come and arrest him too." After General White finished speaking, Two men stepped forward from behind him and grabbed Master Roshi, one on each side, escorting him away. However, Master Roshi was no pushover. Having lived to such an advanced age, he naturally possessed the skills to survive so long. It was impossible for General White's men alone to subdue him. Master Roshi was very clever. He seized an opportunity to meet General White under a pretext and escaped right under their noses. Having finally escaped, Master Roshi naturally wanted to tell Yi-Shen the bad news. Now that Yi-Shen and his group had submerged, Master Roshi needed to use his submarine to find Yi-Shen. In Master Roshi's warehouse, there wasn't only the submarine Yi-Shen and his group had taken. He had several other submarines in stock. Master Roshi himself took one of the submarines to the sea. Each submarine had sensors, allowing Master Roshi to directly locate the submarine Yi-Shen and his group were currently using. Finally, Master Roshi spotted Yi-Shen's submarine on the submarine's radar. It was located in an underwater canyon ahead. It seemed Yi-Shen and his group had found the Dragon Balls, as Master Roshi noticed their location hadn't changed. Master Roshi was extremely anxious. He needed to quickly inform Yi-Shen and his group so they could prepare. General White, furious after Master Roshi's escape, ordered his men to advance at full speed and capture Yi-Shen and Master Roshi alive. Not only did Yi-Shen and his group possess the Dragon Ball radar to locate the Dragon Balls, but General White also had his own. His radar detected the Dragon Ball's location in an area of the ocean. Suddenly, General White had a brilliant idea. Yi-Shen must be nearby. Finding the Dragon Ball's location would lead to finding Yi-Shen. However, how to submerge to the seabed became a problem. General White needed a submarine to reach the bottom, but how could he find one in such a rushed situation? General White was anxious, fearing that Yi-Shen had escaped. He figured Master Roshi was probably the scientist who created the Dragon Ball radar, so his house should contain some useful tools. General White and his men went into Master Roshi's house and searched high and low, finding nothing of value. However, they stumbled upon Master Roshi's warehouse. General White was overjoyed. They entered the warehouse and saw everything Master Roshi had collected over the years. However, these items weren't of much use to them at the moment, except for the two submarines. General White was ecstatic. They had finally found the submarines. He was the first to enter, while his men, attracted by Master Roshi's treasures, each took a few items they liked before leaving. If Master Roshi knew this, given his fastidious nature, he would surely skin them alive. At that moment, a sense of foreboding arose in Master Roshi's heart, and he felt a vague pang of heartache. General White and his men boarded the submarine, which then piloted into the open sea. Following the radar's guidance, they headed towards Yi-Shen and his companions. General White was extremely anxious. He had to find Yi-Shen before he obtained the Dragon Balls and prevent him from taking them away. Under the tutelage of Kirin and Langchi, Yi-Shen and Bulma learned to use the diving equipment. They donned diving suits, strapped on oxygen tanks, and entered the preparation compartment, a water-filled compartment from which they could exit. Kirin led Yi-Shen and Bulma out of the submarine and into the sea, while Langchi remained inside, awaiting their safe return. Fortunately, the Dragon Ball radar was designed to be waterproof, otherwise, bringing it out would have been a major problem. With the diving equipment, Yi-Shen and Bulma swam freely in the ocean. Bulma, in particular, was captivated by the underwater world, her eyes drawn to its stark contrast to the land. Bulma had almost forgotten why she had come here. She swam with a school of fish, trying to catch them, and saw a vibrant red expanse of coral reef, incredibly beautiful. Beneath the sand at the bottom of the sea, many lives lay dormant, and as soon as a bubble rose from the sand, lurking eyes awaited the prey. Chapter 517 Undersea. This novel world made Bulma forget her troubles. She thought she wouldn't get bored here no matter how long she stayed. Yi-Shen looked at the radar's indications. They were only 100 meters away from the Dragon Balls. It seemed they needed to search carefully in this area. The underwater world was somewhat dark, but the Dragon Balls emitted a faint light, which, even if faint, was enough for Yi-Shen and his team to find them. Yi-Shen carried the Dragon Ball radar with him and began searching for the Dragon Balls. The coral reefs here were diverse, making the search somewhat difficult, so Yi-Shen searched slowly and carefully, not missing any corner. Bulma remained where she was until Yi-Shen and Kira walked away, realizing she was alone. Although Bulma was curious, she also felt a slight fear of this unknown world. She was a little afraid of being alone, so she immediately followed to find Yi-Shen and Kira. Bulma swam hard and finally caught up with Yi-Shen and Kurata. After catching up with Yi-Shen, Bulma asked him, "Yi-Shen, have you found the Dragon Ball?" Yi-Shen turned around, his face full of confusion. He couldn't hear what Bulma was saying. Communication underwater is difficult, especially with 2 layers of diving suits between them. "What did you say?" Yi-Shen shouted. "Have you found the Dragon Ball?" Bulma shouted back. "Have you found the Dragon Ball?" This time, Yi-Shen finally understood what Bulma was saying. He shook his head, indicating he hadn't found the Dragon Ball, and immediately shouted to Bulma, "Help me look for it, talk less, and conserve your oxygen." Bulma obediently nodded, not daring to speak again. They each only had 1 canister of oxygen. Running out would be troublesome, so they had to use it sparingly. From then on, communication between them relied solely on tacit understanding and basic hand gestures. Bulma also dispersed to search for the Dragon Ball. She chose a direction and searched within 100 meters. It wasn't particularly difficult, as long as she was patient and careful. After searching for several tens of minutes, Bulma found a round bead, possibly a Dragon Ball, under a coral reef. Bulma was overjoyed and immediately swam to the coral reef. She pried open a small crevice and saw a shining, round bead. Bulma was certain that this bead was the Dragon Ball that Yi-Shen had been searching for. She picked it up, carefully held it in her hand, and turned to find Yi-Shen to tell him. Bulma was very happy that she had found the Dragon Ball first, as she felt it would greatly help Yi-Shen and save him a lot of time. After finding the Dragon Ball, Bulma went to find Yi-Shen, who was searching for it not far behind her. Bulma approached Yi-Shen and patted him on the shoulder. She then held up the Dragon Ball to show him. This greatly surprised Yi-Shen. When Yi-Shen saw the Dragon Ball, he happily picked it up and examined it carefully. Yes, this was the Dragon Ball they were looking for. Yi-Shen was so happy to see the Dragon Ball because he had been searching this area for several tens of minutes. They searched very carefully, but to no avail. Just as he was about to give up, especially when he felt particularly frustrated, Bulma happened to find the Dragon Ball. Yi-Shen gave Bulma a thumbs up. This made Bulma very happy, so Yi-Shen and Bulma decided to call Kirin back, and then the 3 of them returned to the submarine to go home. They had been outside the lobby for almost an hour. The oxygen tank was almost half empty, and they had to get back to the submarine before it ran out. So the 3 of them quickly gathered and prepared to go back. Just then, Yi-Shen saw another unidentified object approaching them in the distance. Bulma also noticed this, thinking it was some kind of large sea fish. She was a little scared and hid behind Yi-Shen. As the unidentified object drew closer, Yi-Shen realized it was exactly the same as theirs, a submarine. But Yi-Shen didn't know what this submarine was or where it came from. Yagami, mistaking the signal for something extremely dangerous, immediately ordered Bulma and Longchick to return to the submarine. Yagami then protected them from behind. Soon, Yagami, Longchick, and Lanky returned to the submarine and closed all the hatches. They prepared to leave. However, Yagami and Bulma quickly discovered that the submarine behind them was following them and constantly sending signals to their radar. The radar picked up the signal from the other submarine, and the translated meaning was that they should stop. The translated information indicated that the person behind them was Master Roshi, which further confused Yagami and Bulma. Yagami and Bulma were hesitant, unsure whether to stop, as they possessed a Dragon Ball, and if the other party was a villain, greater danger would ensue. However, as another submarine continued to send signals, Yagami finally believed that Master Roshi was indeed in the submarine behind them. Finally, Yagami ordered Longchick to stop the submarine, and Master Roshi's submarine quickly followed. Master Roshi finally reunited with Yi-Shen and Bulma. Master Roshi prepared to tell Yi-Shen everything that had happened. Yi-Shen was already prepared, so Master Roshi said, "We'd better leave here quickly, because General White and his men are on their way. I believe they'll catch up very soon. They have a lot of people and a lot of weapons. If they catch up, we'll definitely suffer." Upon hearing General White's name, Yi-Shen knew something was amiss, as General White had repeatedly hindered his search for the Dragon Balls. Yi-Shen had long been fed up with General White's tendency to take advantage and steal. However, after Master Roshi's persistent persuasion, Yi-Shen decided not to confront General White directly. To protect the others, Yi-Shen decided to compromise and lead them away temporarily. Late at night, before the Red Ribbon Army arrived, he had Cool and Lang Chi take the submarine to a place overgrown with coral and dimly lit. Furthermore, This area contains numerous small trenches, and within these trenches are many small holes on the sides of underwater ridges. Entrance is suitable for submarines to hide in. The place where Yi-Shen and his group hid was covered by abundant coral and seaweed, providing them with camouflage, and large schools of fish also helped conceal their position. Chapter 518 Hidden Weapons. In fact, unless the Red Ribbon Army searched carefully, it would be difficult to find Yi-Shen and his group's hiding place. Soon after, the Red Ribbon Army arrived, led by General White. According to General White's Dragon Ball radar, the Dragon Ball's location was nearby, so they stopped there and didn't continue the pursuit. Before General White arrived, they had switched to smaller submarines en route, aiming to find Yi-Shen and his group more easily and quickly, and also to disperse their forces, allowing more manpower to be used for the search. General White ordered his men to search the area thoroughly. Looking out of the submarine's window, Yi-Shen saw General White's face, which was filled with anger. What was he waiting for? In truth, General White was already extremely angry. General White was angry for two main reasons. First, he hadn't obtained a single Dragon Ball yet, as Yi-Shen had gotten them all before him, which infuriated him. He was also very bothered by another matter. Yagami also possessed a Dragon Ball radar, but his was far inferior to Yagami's. People like General White are never satisfied, and he's unwilling to put in 100% effort to achieve his desired results, always thinking about getting something for nothing. General White was extremely unhappy with his outdated Dragon Ball radar. He wanted to acquire a more advanced one that could pinpoint locations more accurately. He thought of Master Roshi, knowing that the old man could surely invent a more advanced Dragon Ball radar. Therefore, General White sent his men to search for Master Roshi, hoping to find someone capable of building a more advanced Dragon Ball radar for him. To capture Master Roshi, General White even hired an artist to paint his portrait. This artist was one of General White's subordinates. He had seen Master Roshi before and could paint from memory. The artist completed the portrait, and General White made many copies, giving each of his men a copy to search for Master Roshi. General White never imagined that Master Roshi was actually with Yi-Shen and his group, but he was unaware of this, so he dispersed some of his men to search for him. The reduction in General White's forces was a good thing for Yi-Shen and his companions. Yi-Shen was currently secretly observing the situation from inside the submarine. He could clearly see one of General White's men approach, whisper something in his ear, something Yi-Shen couldn't hear, and due to the angle, he couldn't see the man's lip movements. In fact, General White's men had relayed a message to him. They had discovered another group also searching for Yi-Shen and Bulma. General Blue was not only searching for Yi-Shen and his companions, but they had also discovered a pirate treasure in a hidden location, containing a great deal of wealth. However, when General White heard this news, he only cared about the fact that General Blue was also searching for Yi-Shen. He didn't care about the treasure at all. His primary concern wasn't the treasure, but rather Yi-Shen's whereabouts. Finding Yi-Shen was more important than finding the treasure. Once he found Yi-Shen and obtained the Dragon Balls, what couldn't he possess, let alone easily obtained wealth? General White wasn't interested in the pirate treasure discovered by General Blue. Instead, he sent his men to tell General Blue something. The men left and found General Blue, relaying General White's order. Find Yi-Shen and retrieve the Dragon Balls. Yi-Shen watched as General White's men searched the vicinity, slowly approaching. Although their position was well hidden and difficult to spot, getting closer would inevitably expose them. Yi-Shen felt they couldn't stay in the submarine any longer, otherwise, they would be sitting idly by and waiting to die. Seeing the situation was dire, Yi-Shen made a decision and told Bulma and Master Roshi, "We need to leave here quickly. They'll find us soon. We need to leave quietly before they arrive, trying our best not to let them discover our whereabouts." Master Roshi agreed with Yi-Shen's suggestion, and Bulma also strongly agreed. Kirin and Langchi had no objections, so everyone reached a consensus. Yi-Shen took the lead, walking first, and led everyone out through the side hatch of the submarine. One by one, everyone left the submarine. This submarine had to be abandoned. Master Roshi felt a pang of regret, but there was no other way. It meant the submarine had to be scrapped. Yi-Shen led everyone deeper into the cave. The further they went, the dimmer the light became. This cave gave off an unusual feeling. Yi-Shen felt it was definitely not a naturally formed cave, but more like a man-made tunnel, because the cave walls were regular and flat, and there were no naturally collapsed rocks on the ground. Therefore, Yi-Shen doubted the cave's origin. The further they went into the cave, the dimmer the light became, but the flatness of the ground didn't cause Yi-Shen and his companions to worry about slipping. Using the faint, glowing green light emitted by the Dragon Ball, Yi-Shen approached the cave wall and discovered many small holes on the inner wall. These holes were all similar in shape and size, seemingly arranged in a regular pattern, which Yi-Shen found very strange. Bulma, who had been following behind Yi-Shen, followed him when he went to look at the cave walls and also saw these regular holes. Bulma reached out to touch the holes, exclaiming in amazement, "These holes are amazing. They're arranged so neatly." Yi-Shen had a bad feeling and didn't want to touch the small holes. Just as he was about to stop Bulma, her finger touched one of them. Yi-Shen reacted quickly, pulling Bulma behind him. In that instant, a projectile shot out from the hole, which Yi-Shen nimbly dodged. Bulma was startled. Everything happened so fast that she hadn't even figured out what was happening. "What happened?" Bulma asked in alarm. "You triggered the projectile." Chapter 519 Detonation Device. Bulma was puzzled, but suddenly understood. "You mean that little hole?" Yi-Shen asked casually. "I'm afraid it's not just this one little hole. All these little holes on the cave walls are hiding places for traps," Bulma asked anxiously, frightened. "What do we do? There are so many. How are we supposed to hide?" Yi-Shen said calmly. "As long as we don't touch them, we'll be fine. So we need to be as careful as possible and avoid touching them." Hearing Yi-Shen's words, everyone naturally dared not touch the little holes anymore. No matter how curious they were, they could only restrain themselves. After all, given Bulma's experience, no one wanted to be riddled with holes by hidden weapons. They continued forward, with Yi-Shen still leading the way. As the strongest among them, he naturally felt obligated to protect everyone, especially since they had come to this place to help him find the Dragon Balls and had encountered this unusual situation. Yi-Shen felt deeply guilty. The light grew weaker and weaker, until it was almost pitch black, but they couldn't rely on touch to orient themselves because the cave walls were riddled with traps. The Dragon Balls on Yi-Shen's person were somewhat effective, but they could only be used by him alone. Having no other choice, Yi-Shen said to the others, "Be careful behind you, watch your sides, don't touch any traps, and watch your steps so you don't fall. Let's put our hands on the shoulders of the person in front of us and walk in a single file. This will save space." Yi-Shen agreed, saying it was indeed the best way. Everyone followed behind Yi-Shen, groping their way forward in the dark. Although Yi-Shen had told everyone to resist their curiosity and not touch the small holes, he couldn't resist observing the dense network of holes on the cave walls. These holes were clearly man-made, and the cave itself was man-made. What kind of force possessed such power to undertake such a massive project on the seabed? And since such a large-scale project had been built here, it must have served a purpose. Therefore, this cave and these small holes must have been built for some special purpose. Yi-Shen felt that the existence of these things here meant that this place was definitely not simple, but he couldn't find the answer yet, nor could he know the purpose of their construction or the secrets hidden behind them. Yi-Shen led everyone forward for a while, and the atmosphere ahead became increasingly strange. Yi-Shen had a bad feeling, as if something was waiting for them ahead. Sure enough, Yi-Shen discovered that in the pitch-black space ahead, many green lights were suspended in mid-air. If Yi-Shen's eyes weren't mistaken, these green lights seemed to be moving. Now, Yi-Shen and the others couldn't see anything but these glowing things. They had no way of knowing what they were, humans? Ghosts? Or monsters? This place was impossible for any human or monster to survive in. Could the unknown things ahead be ghosts? Bulma wondered, terrified, and could only hide behind Yi-Shen. Yi-Shen wasn't confident either. Looking at these things, he didn't know if he could lead everyone out. The unknown ahead made him uncertain, especially given the environment. Seeing the green lights moving around, Yi-Shen and the others dared not advance rashly, so they stopped and told everyone not to make any sudden movements or sounds. But even with these precautions, danger was still approaching. Yi-Shen could see the green lights slowly moving towards them. These things were actually robots guarding the area, patrolling the area, but Yi-Shen and the others didn't know it. Yi-Shen instructed everyone to slowly retreat, paying attention to the cave walls on both sides and the small stones under their feet. Unfortunately, someone still accidentally made a sound, generating a sound wave that the robots picked up. Upon receiving the signal, the robots quickly generated an instruction from their central processor to eliminate the source of the sound. The robots continued to approach, their speed increasing. Yi-Shen simply stopped retreating, as their speed was far inferior to the robots. Finally, the group of robots reached Yi-Shen and his companions, surrounding them. Suddenly, a blinding light appeared. Yi-Shen instinctively closed his eyes. They had been in the cave for so long, their eyes accustomed to the darkness, and the sudden bright light was very unsettling. It turned out the light was emanating from the robots' chests. Yi-Shen then realized they were facing a group of robots, not monsters or ghosts. The robots had scanners in their eyes. After identifying them, the robots classified Yi-Shen and his group as dangerous individuals who had to be eliminated, and thus launched an attack. It seemed the situation was the same as last time. Yi-Shen cursed under his breath, "Damn, can I really be this unlucky?" But it was true. Yi-Shen reacted and shouted to Master Roshi and Bulma, "Run! Run back! Quick!" After saying that, Yi-Shen started running quickly. When he reached Bulma, he pulled her up, who was still in a daze. Yi-Shen used all his strength to run as fast as he could. Master Roshi followed closely behind. This time, he was no longer as slow as a tortoise. He unleashed his full potential and led Kirin and Lanky away from there. Yi-Shen and the others had only run for a few seconds when they heard deafening explosions behind them. One after another, robots exploded. The explosives inside were extremely powerful, and the entire tunnel was shaking. Yi-Shen was anxious for them to get out of this tunnel as soon as possible. A tunnel built underwater for so long could not withstand so many explosives. It was bound to collapse. The tunnel had begun to collapse from the spot where the robot had fallen, and it was collapsing rapidly, faster than Yi-Shen and Master Roshi could escape. This greatly alarmed them. Yi-Shen and Bulma ran ahead, reaching a fork in the road. Yi-Shen went right, while Bulma chose the opposite direction. In the chaos, they became separated. Yi-Shen chose an unknown path, and when he reached its end, he encountered more trouble. He was unaware of the many dangers that awaited him within the tunnel. After overcoming one obstacle after another, he finally found a tunnel that offered a way out, only to discover mechanisms on the tunnel walls. Finally, he encountered a group of terrifying robots who detonated their self-destruct devices, causing the entire tunnel to collapse. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 520 Pirates. Yi-Shen never dreamed that everything that happened today would be so astonishing and incredibly dangerous. Just when Yi-Shen thought they had finally escaped the tunnel collapse, he was separated from Bulma. Because Bulma wasn't with him, Yi-Shen was extremely worried about her safety, so much so that he couldn't completely calm down. Yi-Shen couldn't concentrate, and many things distracted him. When he reached the end of the road, he didn't even notice the problem beneath his feet. At the end of the road, Yi-Shen stepped on a trap mechanism. The trap's opening opened, and he fell into it. Because it happened so suddenly, Yi-Shen had no preparation and fell into the trap without warning, plummeting from a great height. What you probably don't know is that this trap was prepared by pirates who had been here before for those who came later. Because the pirates had buried a lot of treasure here, and due to insufficient transportation capabilities, they couldn't transport all the treasure out, so they buried the remaining treasure here. However, these pirates were extremely greedy. They didn't want anyone to discover the treasure, hoping to return and take it away later. So they designed so many traps and mechanisms to protect it. The situation now seemed the same as last time. Yi-Shen cursed under his breath, "Damn, can I really be this unlucky?" But it was true. Yi-Shen reacted and shouted to Master Roshi and Bulma, "Run! Run back!" Quickly, he then sprinted away, grabbing Bulma's arm and pulling her up. He used all his strength to run as fast as he could. Master Roshi followed closely behind, no longer moving at a snail's pace. He unleashed his full potential, leading Kirin and Lanky away. They had only run a few seconds when they heard deafening explosions behind them. Robots exploded one after another, the explosives inside incredibly powerful, shaking the entire tunnel. Yi-Shen was anxious. They needed to leave this tunnel quickly. A tunnel built underwater for so long couldn't possibly withstand so many explosives. It was bound to collapse. The tunnel had already begun to collapse from the spot where the robot had fallen, and it was collapsing very quickly, faster than Yi-Shen and Master Roshi's escape speed. This greatly worried Yi-Shen and his friends. Yi-Shen and Bulma ran ahead, reaching a fork in the road. Yi-Shen went right, while Bulma chose the opposite direction. In the chaos, they were separated. Yi-Shen chose an unknown path, and when he reached its end, he encountered more trouble. Yi-Shen had no idea that so many dangers awaited him within this tunnel. After overcoming one difficulty after another, he finally found a tunnel that could lead out, only to discover traps on the tunnel walls. Finally, he encountered a group of terrifying machines. These robots detonated their self-destruct devices, causing the entire tunnel to collapse. Yi-Shen never dreamed that everything that had happened today would be so astonishing and incredibly dangerous. Just when Yagami thought they had finally escaped the tunnel collapse, he was separated from Bulma. Without Bulma by his side, Yagami was extremely worried about her safety, preventing him from fully calming down. Unable to concentrate, Yagami was distracted by many things, and when he reached the end of the path, he didn't even notice the problem beneath his feet. At the end of the path, Yagami stepped on a trap mechanism, the trap's opening opened, and he fell into it. Because it happened so suddenly, Yagami was completely unprepared and fell into the trap, plummeting from a great height. What you might not know is that this trap was prepared by pirates who had been here before for those who came later. The pirates had buried a lot of treasure in this place, and due to insufficient transportation capabilities, they couldn't transport all the treasure out, so they buried the remaining treasure here. However, these pirates were extremely greedy. They didn't want anyone to discover the treasure, hoping to return and take it away later. So they designed so many traps and mechanisms to protect it. Today, Yi-Shen was badly tricked by this group of pirates. If Yi-Shen knew who was responsible for his terrible ordeal, he would definitely teach them a lesson. Because Yi-Shen was incredibly agile, his body reacted even as he was falling into the narrow passage. He quickly adjusted his movements to the weakest point and landed on the trap's surface with minimal damage. The environment under the trap was extremely dark. Yi-Shen couldn't see anything clearly. Fortunately, he had a Dragon Ball with him. He could use the faint light emitted by the Dragon Ball to illuminate his path. Yi-Shen walked very carefully. Because of what had happened today, he dared not be reckless anymore. He was constantly on edge, afraid of accidentally triggering the trap's mechanisms. Yi-Shen cautiously followed his grandson, Yi-Shen, deeper into the trap. After walking for about 10 minutes, he noticed what appeared to be shimmering water ahead. This puzzled Yi-Shen greatly. Why would there be water above this sunless trap? Could there be water flowing here? Upon closer inspection, Yi-Shen discovered that there was actually a pool of water, and the water wasn't just scattered, he could clearly hear a gentle trickle. It turned out that there was a constant underground water flow, keeping the water in the pool very clear and clean. Just then, when Yi-Shen saw the water, he felt a pang of thirst. He hadn't drunk any water in a long time. Since going into the sea that day, he hadn't had any fresh water, and his strenuous activity had caused him to sweat profusely, so he desperately needed to replenish his fluids. Yi-Shen reached the pool and slowly squatted down, intending to cup his hands and drink. Just as Yi-Shen's hand was about to touch the water's surface, suddenly the pool changed. Chapter 521 Clues. A colossal creature suddenly emerged from the pond, revealing its enormous body, startling Yi-Shen. Yi-Shen quickly took a few steps back, avoiding being hit by the sudden appearance of the behemoth. Yi-Shen was momentarily unable to identify what this unexpected thing was. After a closer look, he calmed down and realized it was a very large octopus. Yi-Shen couldn't understand why such a large octopus would appear in this place, especially since it was fresh water. Octopuses are creatures that live in seawater. How could it have survived here for so long? And there wasn't a sufficient food source either. All of this astonished Yi-Shen. He felt as if all the bad things had happened today. Yi-Shen had initially thought it best to avoid trouble and not provoke an octopus, especially since he was tired and hungry and desperately needed to replenish his strength. However, Yi-Shen only realized this after circling the trap. The only way out was beneath this pond, seemingly presenting Yi-Shen with another difficult problem. If the exit was underwater, she had to deal with a giant octopus before her. Fortunately, Yi-Shen possessed strong mental fortitude. He had encountered many difficulties on his journey to find the Dragon Balls, but he had never given up. This time, of course, he wouldn't either. Facing the challenge head-on, Yi-Shen jumped into the pond and began his battle with the giant octopus. Yi-Shen bravely leaped into the pool, and the moment he touched the surface, the giant octopus quickly surfaced. This octopus hadn't seen a prey as large as Yi-Shen in a long time. The octopus eagerly awaited Yi-Shen to enter its mouth and become its meal. But Yi-Shen wasn't an ordinary person, he would never become food for an octopus. Yi-Shen saw that the giant octopus had mutated. It had a hard exoskeleton, and when it opened its mouth, incredibly sharp teeth were visible. This octopus was practically a monster, and Yi-Shen was determined not to let it continue to live and wreak havoc on other creatures. Yi-Shen wasn't carrying any weapons, so he had to rely on his own hands to deal with the octopus. In deep water, Yi-Shen was no match for the octopus. After all, water was its domain. So Yi-Shen devised a plan. He would lure the octopus to shallow water, where it would be at its weakest point to strike. Yi-Shen swam to the shallows, and the giant octopus followed. Yi-Shen stayed in the shallows and quickly went ashore. Seeing Yi-Shen reach the shore, the giant octopus was unwilling to give up. It flicked its tail twice in the shallows, creating a large wave. But when the octopus tried to return, she realized she was trapped in shallow water. The spring wasn't big enough for her to swim. Night God saw this opportunity. He found 2 sharp stones on the shore and walked towards the giant octopus. Night God leaped onto the octopus's head and smashed the sharp stones into its eyes. The moment Night God hit the octopus's eyes, blood gushed out, blinding it. The intense pain drove the octopus into a berserk state. It writhed and thrashed wildly at the water's surface with its claws. Even blind, the octopus wouldn't let Night God go. It used its claws to slap Night God's head, knocking him into the water. However, the octopus couldn't see Night God's direction and couldn't chase after him. Originally, blinding the octopus would have allowed Yi-Suan to leave smoothly. But Night God felt that this mutated octopus could no longer exist in this world, so the music turned back. The octopus was killed. Now that the octopus was completely eliminated, Yi-Shen could safely search for a passage to the outside world in the pool. Sure enough, Yi-Shen found an opening in the pool, a very strange one. No water flowed down into it. Yi-Shen followed this passage and finally found that it did indeed lead to the outside. Meanwhile, on Bulma's side, Walmart discovered a hidden place, a place that contained a lot of treasure. At this moment, Bulma and Kirin were together. Why were they together? This has to do with what happened after Bulma and Yi-Shen separated. When the bomb inside the robot's body exploded, the entire tunnel collapsed, and everyone fled in the chaos. After Walmart and Yi-Shen separated, he followed a fork in the road he had taken, and then he found himself at the end of the road. However, unlike Yi-Shen, there was no trap at the end of the road. Bulma found some writing on the wall in the area she reached. After reading it, she learned an important piece of information. If she answered 3 questions on the wall correctly, she could get a clue to escape this predicament. This was very good news for Bulma. Fortunately, Bulma was particularly clever, and she quickly answered the 3 questions on the wall correctly, thus successfully obtaining the clue. With this clue, Bulma successfully found a way to escape the trap. Bulma thus arrived in an unfamiliar place, a completely new place, where she encountered a panicked Krillin. Bulma was very surprised to see Krillin. Krillin was clearly with Master Roshi and the others, so why was he alone in this place? It turned out that after the tunnel collapsed, many hidden entrances appeared in various places. They had either gotten separated or lost their way, so they were escaping through these entrances, but these entrances were interconnected. Bulma grabbed the panicked Krillin and asked, "Why are you running? Where are they?" At this moment, Krillin looked very scared, and he said in a panic, "I don't know where they went. I passed out, and when I woke up, I found myself in a very strange place. I saw many strange things, and then I ran around aimlessly, not knowing which way to go." Bulma comforted Krillin. "It's okay, you've seen me now. Let's exit together." Krillin finally saw someone he recognized, and his fear subsided slightly. So Bulma led Krillin through these cave entrances, searching everywhere until they finally arrived at a very hidden and mysterious place, where they found many dusty boxes. Chapter 522 General Blue. Driven by curiosity, Bulma opened the long sealed chests, discovering they contained many valuable treasures. These treasures were actually left behind by former pirates who had stored away their unmovable possessions here, and these treasures weren't easily obtained. Shortly after Bulma opened the chests, strange noises rang out from the hidden place, followed by a group of robots identical to the ones before. These robots were also tools left behind by the former pirates to protect the treasure, otherwise, Bulma and her companions knew they couldn't possibly defeat them, so they obediently left the area and retreated outside. When the robots saw Bulma leave, they didn't pursue her, They wouldn't attack unless the people took the treasure. These intricate underground passages were like a maze. Did Bulma and her companions have a map? This was a huge challenge for them. Colin had a very pessimistic thought. He felt they might die here. Colin looked very depressed, his thoughts extremely pessimistic. Colin said sadly, "Bulma, are we going to die here?" When Krillin asked Bulma this, Bulma herself was also very uncertain. However, being a few years older than Krillin, she had to pretend to be calm. She wanted to be a role model for Krillin and offer him comfort, so she reassured him. "Why would you think that? Don't you believe me?" Krillin asked, puzzled. "I believe you, but what does that have to do with whether I believe you?" Bulma patted Krillin's head and said, "Because if you believe me, then I'll have even more courage to get us out of here." These words reassured Krillin, and he managed a forced smile in response. Krillin and Bulma encouraged each other, finally gathering their courage to face the challenge ahead. They continued walking, trying to find an exit. A few minutes later, they encountered Yi-Shin, who was rushing towards them. When Bulma saw Yagami, she was overjoyed. She immediately ran to him, hugged him, and exclaimed, "Wow, I'm so glad to finally see you. You have no idea how excited I was." Bulma saw Yi-Shin like a lifeline, feeling incredibly relieved by his appearance. Yi-Shin was also overjoyed to see Bulma and Krillin, as they had finally found their lost loved ones. "As long as everyone is together, there will always be more solutions," Bulma said excitedly, pointing to a spot ahead. "Do you know that there are many boxes hidden over there, all filled with treasure?" Yi-Shin was surprised and asked doubtfully, "Really? Then take me to see it." Led by Bulma and Krillin, Yi-Shin arrived at a place where the robots had been before. Sure enough, he saw many neatly arranged boxes. One box had already been opened by Bulma and Krillin, and Yi-Shin could clearly see many beautiful, glittering pieces of jewelry inside. These were absolutely priceless treasures, and top-quality pieces at that. Whoever finds these treasures will become incredibly wealthy overnight, never to worry about food or clothing again. However, while discovering the treasures is easy, possessing them is extremely difficult. Not only is transporting the treasures incredibly challenging, but there are also numerous robots guarding them, far more powerful and advanced than the ones discovered last time. Just a minute or two after Yagami and Bulma entered the area, the robots reappeared. These robots were very aggressive, immediately attacking Yagami and Bulma upon discovering their presence. Yagami noticed that these robots could freely change their forms. Among them, he spotted a special one, the largest robot with numerous arms capable of simultaneous attacks. The robots launched their attack, and Yagami accepted the challenge. This time, Yagami found it easier to deal with the robots, quickly defeating the ordinary ones. Only the robot with many arms remained. When Yi-Shin fought this robot, he couldn't gain any advantage. He had initially thought he could defeat the robot with his agile reflexes, but the robot's many arms made it very difficult for him. Yi-Shin and his group had been trapped here for a long time, and Yi-Shin wanted a quick victory, so he decided to use his ultimate move. After Yi-Shin unleashed his ultimate move, the robot was destroyed. After struggling, it instantly disintegrated. Bulma and Kirin watched in stunned silence, staring at Yi-Shin in astonishment. Bulma couldn't help but exclaim, "That was so cool." Yi-Shin flicked his hair and said proudly, "Did you notice today? I'm always this cool." With all the robots dealt with, there were no longer any obstacles to Yi-Shin and his group's progress. Since they couldn't take the discovered treasure with them, Yi-Shin and his group had no choice but to leave it there. Besides, they weren't short of money, so they weren't greedy for the treasure. So Yi-Shin led Bulma and Kirin away. They wandered around the underwater tunnel for a while, unsure of how to get out, when they heard voices coming from a passage ahead. Since Yi-Shin and the others didn't know who the people were, they temporarily hid at a side path. Yi-Shin pulled Bulma and Kirin behind him, telling them to stay hidden so that he could be the first to rush out and protect them if any danger arose. The voices of the group grew louder, and after a while, they revealed themselves. Yi-Shin recognized the leader immediately. It was General Blue. When Yi-Shin also recognized General Blue, he knew they were in trouble again. Yi-Shin had offended General Blue on his territory before, so this time the general was definitely after him. Chapter 523. Too busy to take care of itself. It was truly a case of one rain after another. Nightfall inwardly cursed his terrible luck. Nightfall gestured to Bulma and Krillin, instructing them to remain silent and avoid being discovered by General Blue and his men. However, Nightfall hadn't anticipated his utterly unlucky day. Right after his surgery, General Blue's men inadvertently arrived at their hiding place. One of Blue's men opened his mouth, about to scream, when Nightfall quickly covered his mouth. But Nightfall was too late. The man still managed a small sound, which his companion overheard. Nightfall was now at a loss. He dared not act rashly, desperately hoping that Blue's men hadn't heard him, as he was exhausted and didn't want any more strenuous activity. Hope is always beautiful, but reality is always cruel. Perhaps for Nightfall, today was his darkest day. General Blue's man, having heard the noise, reported back to General Blue. "General, something's wrong," General Blue called out, turning around. "What's wrong?" one of them exclaimed, reacting quickly. "Where's my brother?" "My brother's gone," General Blue ordered. "Someone's missing? Could he be lost? Everyone, spread out and search. Be careful, the terrain here is complex. It's best to go in groups of 2 or 3. Don't go alone." Receiving General Blue's orders, everyone dispersed and went in pairs. Yi-Shen was extremely nervous. He didn't dare to rush out with Bulma and Kirin because he didn't know how many men General Blue had brought. Layman, unsure of his options, had to stay put. Bulma and Kirin were also very anxious, afraid of being discovered by General Blue. They were undecided and hoped Nightfall could come up with a solution, but Nightfall himself was at a loss and couldn't think of a good one. All they could do now was stay put and try not to let General Blue's men find them, so they could only wait. If they weren't found by General Blue's men, they were lucky. If they were, they would have to play it by ear. General Blue had brought many men with him this time, and they all dispersed to search. Soon, they arrived behind Yi-Shen and the others. Just one turn would allow them to see Yi-Shen and the others' location clearly. Hearing footsteps getting closer in the night, he knew they would be found, so he was prepared for a fight. In the end, General Blue's men found Yi-Shen. They couldn't be her subordinates, so they reacted immediately with just a glance, throwing the person she was holding hostage away and then dragging Bull and Q-Ling away. Yi-Shen's reaction was incredibly fast, completely bewildering General Blue's men. Before they even realized what was happening, Yi-Shen had already run several dozen meters away. By the time the general's men reacted, they began to regroup and chase after Yi-Shen and the others. The underwater passage was intricate, with many interconnected openings, so they dispersed. Starting from different paths, they surrounded Yi-Shen and his group using an encirclement tactic. Yi-Shen ultimately couldn't overcome their numbers. After running for several tens of minutes, Yi-Shen was caught by General Blue's men. Although General Blue's men were no match for Yi-Shen, they relentlessly pursued him, constantly providing him with mana, thus slowing him down. Then General Blue arrived just in time, surrounding Yi-Shen and Bulma. Ever since Yi-Shen caused a ruckus on General Blue's territory, General Blue had harbored a grudge, seeking an opportunity to settle scores with Yi-Shen. Today, that opportunity had finally arrived, and General Blue wouldn't let it slip by. When he saw Yi-Shen, he was overjoyed, seeing it as a perfect chance for revenge, especially since Yi-Shen had few allies and no one to help him. So General Blue began to attack Yi-Shen. Yi-Shen was initially very reluctant to continue fighting, but since General Blue had already made his move, he had no choice but to accept the challenge. As the saying goes, potential is unleashed through challenge. The more difficult a battle, the more a person's potential is revealed. Perhaps even Yagami couldn't have imagined that, despite his exhaustion, his body could unleash astonishing explosive power. Unlike General Blue's relentless attacks, which used every move at 100% of his power, Yagami was able to handle General Blue with relative ease. General Blue initially had great confidence, but he gradually realized Yagami's strength was truly formidable. Eventually, General Blue began to struggle. To avoid a humiliating defeat and losing face in front of his opponent, he decided to abandon his attack on Yi-Shen and instead target Kulin, who was beside Yi-Shen. General Blue was a coward who bullied the weak. He attacked Kulin himself while ordering all his men to deal with Yi-Shen. He intended to use a war of attrition to wear down Yi-Shen. General Blue's plan was extremely insidious. Perhaps even Kulin hadn't expected General Blue to turn against him, and he was unprepared, hastily accepting General Blue's challenge. Kulin seemed to struggle against General Blue. He was no match for him. However, on Yagami's side, he was held back by General Blue's numerous subordinates, who surrounded him in layers, preventing him from escaping. Therefore, he couldn't provide Kulin with any help for the time being. Even Bulma was currently preoccupied with her own problems, as General Blue's subordinates were also fighting against Kulin. Bulma's strength was mediocre, she could only handle a small number of opponents. General Blue seemed to handle Kulin with ease, and his arrogance grew. During the fight, he harbored murderous intent. General Blue confidently used his superpowers and defeated Kulin. Even after defeating Kulin, he wasn't satisfied with him. Not giving up, he continued his attempt to kill Krillin. Yagami kept a close eye on Bulma and Krillin, fearing that General Blue's men might harm them. He felt obligated to protect his companions. Chapter 524 Repeating the same mistake. Just as General Blue raised a large rock beneath his feet, his eyes were already focused, ready to rush over and eliminate Kulin. General Blue raised the rock high and brought it down on Kulin's head. Kulin was terrified, she didn't even try to dodge. Fortunately, Night God appeared in time, freeing herself from General Blue's men and rushing to Kulin's side, pulling her up from the ground. General Blue's plan failed, he hadn't harmed Kulin. Enraged, General Blue had thought he could finish her off. Night God had gained an ally, at least depriving the opponent of some of their support. But this plan had failed, and he was furious. General Blue's hatred for Night God grew stronger, he wanted Night God dead immediately. Seeing more and more of his men falling, General Blue began to panic. He had no choice but to personally take to the field. This time, General Blue gave it his all. Night God, on the other hand, was also taking this battle very seriously. Bulma had always wanted to do something for Yi Shen, to offer him some help, but her abilities were limited, and she could never provide timely assistance, she could only protect herself. Bulma felt extremely guilty, and this time she was determined to do something for Yi Shen. However, what Bulma didn't know was that in Yi Shen's heart, as long as Bulma could protect herself, that was the best thing she could do for him. Because if Yi Shen didn't have to worry about taking care of Bulma and Krillin, he could devote more energy to dealing with General Blue. This time, the battle between General Blue and Yi Shen was even more intense. The scene was extremely tense, and a major battle was about to erupt. Yi Shen didn't want to continue passively accepting challenges. This time, he took the initiative and launched an attack on General Blue. Although Yi Shen was used to passively accepting challenges, that meant he had no initiative. The initiative was entirely in the opponent's hands, and he couldn't control the situation in real time. If we want to resolve this crisis, then General Blue is the key. If we can defeat him, the others will be less of a threat. Bulma wanted to distract General Blue. If General Blue's attention wasn't fully focused, it would be easier for Yagami to defeat him. Bulma stood beside General Blue and Yagami, making funny faces and gestures to try and attract his attention. However, to Bulma's surprise, she attracted Yagami's attention instead. Since General Blue wasn't familiar with Bulma, and only Yagami and Bulma were close, Bulma's antics made Yagami laugh even harder. Yagami's distraction was a bad thing, as General Blue quickly seized this opportunity and launched a surprise attack. Yagami didn't notice and was defeated before he could react. Logically, Yagami shouldn't have been so easily defeated, but General Blue seized the chance. He used his most powerful move. Yagami was seriously injured. Bulma was very worried, she felt she had done something wrong. She quickly ran to Yagami to check on him. Although Yagami had been defeated by General Blue, he refused to admit defeat because General Blue had only managed to defeat him by finding an opportunity to ambush him. Yagami, who was never one to give up, was filled with fighting spirit after being defeated by General Blue. Despite his serious injuries, he immediately got up. He said to Bulma, "Don't worry about me. This little injury is nothing to me." Bulma frowned, feeling very guilty. "I'm sorry. It's all my fault that you've ended up like this." Yi Shen patted Bulma's head, which was bowed low in embarrassment. Yi Shen unleashed his indomitable spirit. This time, he was full of fighting spirit and vowed to defeat General Blue, and to crush him completely. This time, Yi Shen's attack was swift and ruthless. General Blue was no match for him. He had previously thought Yi Shen's strength was passable, but now Yi Shen's eyes filled him with fear, for this was Yi Shen's true power. Yi Shen, who had stood up again, seemed like a different person. General Blue was terrified of Yi Shen's eyes, they held a look of absolute certainty of victory. General Blue was no match for Yi Shen now. He was utterly defeated. General Blue had never imagined he would lose so badly, utterly powerless to resist. He felt his pride had been completely shattered. Yi Shen was determined to kill him this time. He had no intention of sparing General Blue's life. Keeping General Blue alive would only cause trouble later, and given General Blue's character, he would never let it go easily. Seeing the murderous intent in Yi-Shen's eyes, General Blue immediately changed his attitude, adopting a pitiful and obedient demeanor, abandoning his pride in hopes that Yi-Shen would spare him. General Blue pleaded, "Let me go. I'll take my men and leave immediately, and I promise I won't bother you again." General Blue spoke with conviction and sincerity, but this was merely a tactic to gain Yi-Shen's sympathy. However, Yi-Shen wouldn't repeat the same mistake. Someone had already exploited his soft heart to ambush him, so he wouldn't fall for it this time. Yi-Shen coldly replied to General Blue, "You want me to let you go? Do you think that's possible?" The words of the Red Ribbon Legion are the least trustworthy. General Blue saw the determination in Yi-Shen's eyes. He knew he couldn't get Yi-Shen to spare him by pleading, so he had no choice but to continue using his ultimate attack. General Blue secretly launched his attack, and Yi-Shen, unaware, was struck. Yi-Shen suddenly felt himself unable to move, as if his entire body had been frozen in place. After General Blue used his superpower, Yi-Shen didn't know why he couldn't move at all. This was extremely dangerous for Yi-Shen, and Bulma was very worried, seeing that General Blue was about to strike him. Chapter 525 Turning Point. She thought to herself that she would save Yi-Shen even at the cost of her life. This was the bond between friends. Just as General Blue raised his hand to strike, the entire underwater tunnel suddenly began to shake violently. The shaking was incredibly intense, with rocks and sand constantly falling, making it difficult to stand. Yi-Shen quickly realized it was an underwater earthquake, and a rather high one at that. Judging by this, the pirate base was doomed. The pirate base seemed poised to collapse at any moment. The sudden danger terrified General Blue. He no longer cared about Yi-Shen. Blue immediately turned and ran. General Blue abandoned Yi-Shen and his men, running away first, demonstrating just how despicable he was. The situation was dire. Yi-Shen was immobilized. If the underwater tunnel collapsed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Bulma and Kulin were also completely disoriented. After General Blue left, his men were like ants on a hot plate, frantically fleeing in all directions. But in such a complex tunnel, the more panicked they were, the more likely they were to lose their lives. Seeing their leader was gone, General Blue's men didn't care about anything else, they only cared about saving their own lives. They weren't stupid enough to work for someone whose leader had abandoned them. As everyone slowly left, Yi-Shen sensed that the entire underwater tunnel was about to collapse, but he couldn't move, a truly terrible situation. Bulma and Kirin were also extremely anxious. They wanted to leave as quickly as possible, but because of Yi-Shen's condition, they couldn't abandon him. Kirin was torn, he was terrified of dying here. He had only come to help find something, but he had experienced such a perilous ordeal. Gradually, Yi-Shen felt his mouth could move again, although it was still a little numb, but he could finally speak. Yi-Shen didn't want Bulma and Kirin to be harmed, so he almost roared. "Why aren't you running? What are you standing here for? Run! Run!" Bulma cried, her voice trembling with anxiety. "If we leave, what will happen to you? We won't abandon you." This friendship was incredibly touching at that moment, every word and expression was a genuine expression of emotion. Yi-Shen shouted loudly. "Does everyone have to die here for the best outcome? We'll get as many people as we can escape. You go first, I'll come back as soon as I recover," Bulma said, knowing Yi-Shen was trying to reassure her. "But it's so dangerous here, and you're in this condition, how can you possibly escape? You're lying to me, I don't want to listen to you." Kirin came over to help Bulma carry Yi-Shen. Yi-Shen tried to resist, but his limbs were stiff and he couldn't move. Yi-Shen roared fiercely at Bulma. This was the first time he had ever spoken so fiercely to someone. "Are you all crazy? If we do this, none of us will escape. You all need to leave quickly. Don't worry about me, I'll handle things myself." Kirin thought Yi-Shen's words made perfect sense, so he turned to persuade Bulma. "I think Yi-Shen is right. What we're doing is only dragging everyone down. Let's leave first. As long as we escape, we can still come back to save him. Besides, you have to believe in your friend's abilities." At this moment, Bulma was already crying uncontrollably, tears streaming down her face anxiously. Yi-Shen was also very saddened by this. Yi-Shen's heart softened immediately, and he said gently to Bulma, "Be good. Listen to me. You and Kirin go out first. I'll be fine. Time is running out, be good." Bulma wiped away her tears, nodded to Yi-Shen, and, not wanting him to worry, quickly stood up, grabbed Kulin, and ran. This was the fastest Bulma had ever run in her life. Bulma wasn't thinking about escaping herself, she wanted to get away as fast as possible. She left the underwater tunnel at top speed, and she and Kulin returned to the submarine. Bulma saw Master Roshi and Lanky anxiously waiting beside the submarine. When Master Roshi saw Bulma and Kulin, he was overjoyed, but seeing that Yi-Shen wasn't with them, he became very anxious. He asked urgently, "Where's Yi-Shen? Why didn't he come back with you?" Bulma pursed her lips, deciding to tell Master Roshi the cruel truth, and said, her voice choked with emotion, "The 070 underwater tunnel we were in collapsed. General Blue used his superpowers on Yi-Shen, and he can't move. He can't escape." Master Roshi was so anxious he was incoherent, constantly muttering, What should we do? It's collapsed, we can't move, what do we do?" Master Roshi seemed truly desperate. He paced back and forth, muttering incoherently, his mind racing. He asked, a little angrily, "How could you just leave him like that and run out like that?" Kulin explained. Bulma tried to explain, but her throat was choked with sobs. "It wasn't us who left him, he let us out first." Master Roshi sighed, muttering, "That silly child, always thinking of others first, sigh, so narrow-minded." Bulma cried, "What should we do? We don't even know Yi-Shen's current situation." Master Roshi looked at the group and sighed heavily. His men were all weak, they were either girls or old people. Kulin and Lanky were only at an average level. Besides, they had to stay here and prevent the Red Ribbon Army from discovering the only usable submarine. Master Roshi was torn. He wanted to rescue Yi-Shen immediately, but he also had to protect Bulma and the others. The situation was extremely bad. Just as Master Roshi was struggling with this dilemma, things began to turn around for Yi-Shen. After being able to speak again, Yi-Shen slowly felt his body warming up. He tried to move his body and felt a glimmer of hope, which made him very happy. It turned out that the body could slowly recover. General Blue's superpowers had gradually lost their effect after General Blue left, so Yi-Shen's body was slowly recovering. Yi-Shen's current environment was terrible, sand and small stones kept falling on his head, but luckily, none of them hit him. Yi-Shen's eyes darted around, watching the falling objects brush past him, a sense of panic creeping into his heart. He desperately used all his strength, hoping to recover quickly. Finally, after reaching a critical point, Yi-Shen was able to use his body to stand up, his legs slowly moving, though his movements were somewhat stiff. It was better than standing there completely immobile. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all, see you in the next video.